Chapter 101 Kill 2 more people. If they knew the real situation of Yi Shiwen now, they would not be so surprised. Now Yi Shiwen can definitely sweep the masters at the peak of the innate third layer, and even fight against some weaker innate fourth layer masters. As Yi Shiwen killed the young man in Xing Yi with one knife, the situation of the battle changed instantly. From the perspective of the top players, it was Yi Shiwen who had the advantage. Yi Shiwen's knife not only killed the young man in Xing Yi, but also deterred those who were watching and wanted a piece of the pie. Originally, they planned to take action after both sides lost, even when Shangguan Xuanyi and the others had the upper hand. They had no plans to give up, because at that time, although Shangguan Xuanyi had the upper hand, he was not one-sided. They felt that there should still be a chance. But Yi Shiwen was too strong, and he killed a master of the peak of the third level innate in one shot. Even Yan Qilin felt chills when he looked at it, let alone other people. In the face of Shangguan Xuanyi and others, he can hold on for a while, but in the face of Yi Shiwen, I'm really afraid that he will be killed in 1 second. It's really chilling. No one is not afraid of death, even if they know that they can be resurrected. Fuck, junior brother Yi, he's perverted again. Zhang Yang on one side stared blankly at Yi Shiwen's knife, while Wu Hao and Qian Wanru both nodded, expressing their deep sympathy. They watched Yi Shiwen become more and more perverted step by step. Almost every once in a while, Yi Shiwen's strength would soar. On the other hand, Yi Rushui on the other side was nothing. In her heart, that was her younger brother. No matter how perverted it was, she was also her younger brother. At this time, she was much calmer. Yi Shiwen sneered and walked towards the strange yellow-robed youth. The yellow-robed youth suddenly became nervous. Yi Shiwen's knife just now was so amazing that he also saw it. Third brother, Yi Feng said in surprise. He thought he was going to fight to the death this time, but he didn't expect that in another village, his third brother came out. Yi Shiwen nodded towards Yi Feng, and suddenly the young man in yellow robe moved. His body was like lightning. He rushed towards Yi Shiwen and slapped it with one palm. It was the hand of sad leaves. It was amazing. The whole air was really under the shock of qi. It burst open and attacked Yi Shiwen with lightning speed. The shadows of the palms came all over the sky, trying to catch Yi Shiwen by surprise. It was really ruthless. Yi Shiwen sneered. How could he be unprepared? He slapped it with a palm, and ran the thunder hand. The thunder roared and rumbled, as if the sky suddenly exploded with thunder. Boom! The two palms collided fiercely, and the young man in yellow robe stumbled and almost fell. At this time, Shangguan Xuanyi shot in an instant, and the ice palm instantly froze the whole air. He could see it. Among these people here, the most threatening one is Yi Shiwen. As long as Yi Shiwen is killed, there is still a chance to restore the situation. On the contrary, if Yi Shiwen cannot be killed, he can only suffer in the end. And he probably couldn't beat Yi Shiwen alone. Only when the two of them shot together would they have a chance. Shangguan Xuanyi attacked like a thunderbolt. Yi Shiwen shot again in an instant, swiftly and resolutely, slapped it with a palm, and the thunder-shaped true qi spurted out in an instant, and slammed into the frozen true qi. Boom! The two groups really collided, and endless air waves were lifted. Shangguan Xuanyi took a few steps back, secretly complaining, with terrifying strength, and at this time, the young man in yellow robe had already rushed over again, although the cooperative relationship between them was only a temporary cooperation, and they were both concerned about each other. Ghost fetus, but at this time, he can't care so much anymore. Yi Shiwen must be killed, otherwise, only them will die. Yi Feng originally wanted to go up to help, but seeing Yi Shiwen's appearance, it was obvious that he was at ease, so he had no intention of going forward. The two attacked together, and the momentum was overwhelming. At this moment, the two became unusually tacit, and the two joined forces to attack, and Yi Shiwen actually fell behind for a while, but after a while, Yi Shiwen, who had adapted to the combination of the two, finally shot again. This time, it was Yi Shiwen's knife that responded to the two's attack. Qi, the artistic conception of the full moon, slashed down. Boom! The artistic conception turned into a picture scroll, descended from the sky, crushed the two of them, crushed their offensive, crushed their body protection infuriating, and finally turned into two streams of light and disappeared. In the Phantom Realm. Without the two of them, everyone knew that the overall situation had been decided. Although the Iceland branch still had a lot of innate masters, the strength of the Jade Girl branch was not bad at all. There was also Yi Feng, Yi Shiwen, and the eldest grandson Yuyan's joint offensive. Under the situation, they were quickly defeated and beheaded cleanly. And those disciples who were onlookers also left one after another, not daring to stay any longer, joking, God knows if these red-eyed disciples will turn their anger towards them, then they are in a terrible disaster, and it is utterly unlucky. Third brother, thanks to you this time. Yi Feng came over and said with some emotion, if it wasn't for Yi Shiwen to fall from the sky this time, they would be really bad. It's nothing, but big brother. Yi Shiwen looked at Yi Shiwen and looked very surprised. Before, Yi Feng's strength had only just reached the peak of the first level of the innate, and now he has jumped twice in a row to reach the peak of the third level of the innate. Weird. This is not scientific. This sentence remained in Yi Shiwen's mind. Brother, could it be that you took the blood essence fruit? This idea suddenly popped into Yi Shiwen's mind, because only after breaking through the second level of the innate, and taking the blood essence fruit again, could his strength soar in a short period of time. But this is not right. Big brother is not so unwise. Everyone knows the preciousness of blood essence fruit. It is a completely different concept. It can be said that the later it is used, the greater the effect. That is how the matter. Chapter 102 The End of the Assessment. The blood essence fruit is precious, Yi Shiwen knew when he divided the sect in Qingfeng Mountain. If it was not extremely precious, it would not have attracted so many people's attention. Although it is only effective for the masters of the innate realm, the true masters are how much is the one Yuan sect, the full count is about 1,000 people, and almost all of the remaining nearly 100,000 innate masters can be used. It is conceivable how precious it is. Yi Shiwen planned it from the moment he got it. He has to wait until the day after the 8th level of the day after he breaks through the 9th level of the day after tomorrow. There are a lot of things left. This practice will be more difficult to break through. The help of Citybao is naturally the best. Even many people cannot cultivate to the level of the acquired 7th or 8th level. There are many people who stay in the congenital 5th level all their lives. The congenital 5th level is a big threshold, and whether they can cross the past becomes a very important watershed. To cross the past, it can be said to have initially entered the middle level of the One Yuan sect, and at the worst, it can also be released as a branch sect elder, middle and lower level personnel. Yi Shiwen felt it was worth it even if it was used in the 5th and 6th stages of the day after tomorrow, but it would be a pity to use it up so early. After that, Yi Shiwen finally knew the ins and outs from the mouths of everyone. It turned out that after Yi Feng and the Qingfeng Mountain branch separated some time ago, the Qingfeng Mountain branch met the Jade Girl branch, and helped the Jade Girl branch to repel a wave of phantom attacks. The two even used their cooperation to explore the purpose of a phantom demon. This phantom monster is quite impressive, and there are several powerful phantom monsters to help it keep its spirits. In front of it is at least a 5th level congenital phantom with considerable intelligence. Therefore, the two sides discussed it, and after beheading the phantom demon who kept the spirit, they entered it. As expected, they got a magic sound flute. This magic sound flute is actually a magic weapon. The lowest level magic weapon, but only the 5th level innate and above, transforming innate chi into true essence, can it be a weapon that can be driven. The power is infinite, not to mention the relatively rare sonic attack. It was precious, but the news leaked, attracting the peeps of Shangguan Xuanyi and others. Yi Shiwen looked at the dark-colored flute hanging on Cheng Sun Yuyan's body, sighed and shook his head. How could he still not understand? He was afraid that his eldest brother liked Cheng Sun Yuyan, even something like a spirit tool they were all willing to give them away. Even among the core disciples of the innate 5th layer supreme, there was no one in their hands, and even among the core disciples, only less than 10% possessed a spirit tool. The preciousness of this magic sound flute can be imagined, but Yi Feng did not feel any pain in the flesh, and even Yi Shiwen felt that taking the blood essence fruit in advance was probably related to the eldest grandson Yuyan. Originally, Yi Feng was only the peak of the 1st level innate, and even if he broke through again, it would only be the 2nd level innate, and the eldest grandson Yuyan had already reached the peak of the 3rd level innate. The medicinal power of the blood primordial fruit is still there, and I am afraid that it will not be long before I can break through to the 4th level of the innate, and can truly be side by side with the eldest grandson Yuyan. In this regard, I am afraid that everyone in the Qingfeng Mountain branch is well aware of it, so they have no opinion on handing the magic sound flute to the eldest grandson Yuyan. Yi Shiwen sighed. They had no opinion. Of course Yi Shiwen also had no opinion. Even a martial artist could not avoid marriage and childbirth. This is an instinct to prolong life. It is to get rid of heaven and earth and live forever, but that is just a legend. There are so many heroes in the world, but who can not die, who can be invincible? But that's all in the future. Who knows what's going to happen in the future, and doesn't know what the attitude of the eldest grandson Yuyan is. But seeing the appearance of the eldest grandson Yuyan, Yi Shiwen knew there was a drama, and Yi Feng's attitude was already obvious. But there is no sign of eldest grandson Yuyan's disgust. Then there is a drama. Yi Shiwen is still wondering if he wants to give his elder brother a few tricks, not to mention anything else in the previous life. All kinds of cultures are more prosperous than this one. There are so many tricks to pick up girls and so on, when a few tricks are always useful. There were thousands of thoughts in Yi Shiwen's mind, but he didn't show it. He glanced at the people in Qingfeng Mountain. This time it can be said that the loss was heavy. 10 people died directly, but the remaining people were more than the last time Yi Shiwen saw it. To be a lot stronger, many people are already on the verge of breaking through to the innate realm, and in addition to Yi Feng's strongest strength, in addition to the triple jump, Zhang Yang also successfully transformed 30% of the innate chi to the innate second layer. Breath very stable, compared to after a while, you can try to transform 40% of the innate true chi and reach the peak of the second level of innate. However, Wu Hao and Qian Wanru were already at the first level of innate energy, transforming 10% of their innate chi. Yi Rushui's progress was also great, steadily transforming 20% of their innate energy, reaching the peak of the first level of innate energy. During this period of time, everyone has made a lot of progress. Yi Shiwen nodded. Sure enough, only by colliding with stronger masters and more enchanting geniuses can they make rapid progress. If they are still in Qingfeng Mountain, I am afraid that their cultivation will stop and it will be difficult to progress. Because there is no stronger existence among the people of the same generation around. Naturally slack in the heart, in any situation, go forward bravely, never stop. There are not no people who keep practicing, but there are few. But no matter what, this assessment has finally come to an end, and the next thing is to wait for the allocation. Chapter 103. In the main hall of Tongtian Peak, 2 figures, one strong and one thin, walked side by side, but it was Yan Qilin and Yi Shiwen. Brother Yi's swordsmanship is really good. I'm afraid that few of the inner disciples can match it. Yan Qilin said. Among the inner disciples, there are many people who hide dragons and crouching tigers, and there are also many people who are skilled in swordsmanship. Yi Shiwen replied indifferently. Brother Yi is humble. If we talk about strength, among the inner disciples, there are indeed many who are more powerful than us, but if we talk about the superb swordsmanship, I have never seen anyone who can kill more than Brother Yi. Even among the inner disciples, there are very few people who have a mood. Yan Qilin said with a smile. It wasn't that Yan Qilin wanted to curry favor with Yi Shiwen, but it was true, the knife 3 days ago really made him so far still unforgettable. As the entry-level assessment ended, 3 days have passed. Everyone has been admitted by the various peaks. It is very calm. There is no such vulgar scene as a group of old men came out to grab people and want to accept Yi Shiwen as a disciple. Yi Shiwen thought about it. Also, the One Yuan sect is so big, so many geniuses emerge almost every year. The entry-level assessment is held every 3 years. I don't know how many times it has been held over the years, and many geniuses have emerged, but to be able to see a scene of a group of old men robbing apprentices, it would have to be so talented and evil. There is no such thing as a test of talent here. Just a test will tell you the legendary equipment that has no future in your life. Even if there is such a thing, Yi Shiwen asks himself that he is definitely not the most outstanding one. Of course, high-level attention is inevitable. As for which level of high-level executives are paying attention, Yi Shiwen doesn't know. He got the news the next day. Last, but not the one at the bottom. And among those who knew, only Yan Qilin, who had only a few ties, went to Tongtian Peak with him. Yi Feng, Zhang Yang, and Wu Hao all entered Wangyu Peak, while the eldest grandson Yuyan, Yi Rushui, and Qian Wanru entered the Jade Girl Peak. Basically, they are divided into different main peaks. Of course, Wangyu Peak is the best, but it does not mean that as long as the strength is high, it will be divided into the best main peak. This is considering the development of the 10 main peaks is balanced. If only one main peak of Wangyu Peak is strengthened, there is no need to separate 10 main peaks. When it comes to the strength gap between the main peaks, it does exist, but under such a distribution system, there will be no huge difference. In this unfamiliar Tongtian Peak, on the contrary, Yan Qiling, who had only met a few times, became a relatively acquainted person. As a new disciple who had just entered from each branch, he naturally came together. Of course, in addition to the two of them, more than 200 people were also assigned to Tongtian Peak. Yan Qiling is worthy of being used to being a big disciple, and quickly gathered these disciples around. In this master sect, as a new rookie disciple, the original branch is different at this time. It's not so important. If the new disciples don't form a group, they will easily be bullied by the old disciples. Because the main sect is not like a branch, because once the disciples have learned something, they will basically enter the general sect, so there is no cronies, but it is different in the main sect. Basically there are groups of cronies, hundreds of true disciples, except for some loners, almost all of them have their own cronies, or they are also famous and powerful figures in a certain faction, and many of them are famous in the Yuan dynasty. The 3-yearly newcomer assessment is a good opportunity for these cronies to attract people everywhere. For those cronies formed by true disciples, they only accept members from the core disciples, unless there are extreme only those who are outstanding may be attracted by them and may be directly received. Originally, these new branch disciples were all headed by Yi Shiwen and Yan Qiling, but Yi Shiwen had no interest in forming cronies. Those true disciples wanted to form crons just to compete for the position of the head, but what kind of head did Yi Shiwen have? No interest, and even less interest in forming cronies. Therefore, the newly promoted disciples all moved to Yan Qiling's side. In addition to the more than 200 disciples around Yan Qiling, there was another group among the newly promoted disciples. In addition to the various branches, various forces in the country worshipped it was formed by the foreign disciples of the One Yuan sect, and the leader was the eccentric young man in yellow robe who was beheaded by Yi Shiwen before. Yi Shiwen also knew his name was Huang Yilin in the past few days. Among the many aristocratic families in Deu country, the Huang family is also quite a statement. Although it is not comparable to a transcendent force like the One Yuan sect, it is also a powerful one. It is difficult for newcomers to survive. If they can't hold together in a group, they will have a very difficult life. Now the two of us have entered Tongtian Peak together, and we will be the same family in the future. Please give Brother Yi more advice. Yan Qiling said, although Yi Shiwen is a little younger than him, but this world has always respected the strong. Yi Shiwen's the strength is above him, and it is not a loss to call Brother Yi. That is, since we are from the same family in the future, we should support each other. Yi Shiwen said with a smile. Yi Shiwen's indifference will only treat the enemy. Brother Yan is now the leader of many new disciples. He's so majestic. I want you to help me. Yi Shiwen said with some ridicule. For Yan Qiling, Yi Shiwen still has a good impression of Yan Qiling. Chengfu, but in general, he is still an upright person. Yan Qiling smiled wryly and said, that is to say, it looks okay now. In a few days, how could the factions among those old disciples not be able to come to pull people? Tell the truth to Brother Yi. In fact, yesterday, there were already 2 high-ranking factions have come to find me. I hope I can join them. True disciple, Yi Shiwen said blankly. Yan Qiling nodded with a wry smile. Of course, the faction formed by the true disciples is disliked by ordinary people, but is Yan Qiling an ordinary person? Even if Yan Qiling is not as good as Yi Shiwen, he is definitely the best among the disciples this time. It is also normal for someone to come to win over. Yi Shiwen was silent for a while. The faction of the true disciples came to pull people. Of course it was not easy to refuse. If I'm not mistaken, they will come to you soon. Have you figured it out? Chapter 104 The old disciple deceives people too much. If I'm not mistaken, they will come to you soon. Have you made up your mind? Yan Qiling asked. Yes, the general faction. Yi Shiwen has no interest, but what about those true disciples? It's not easy to refuse invitations from those people's factions, because it often represents the beginning of a big trouble. If they are true disciples with more open-mindedness, then it's okay to say, it won't matter. If it is a true disciple with a narrow mind, after being rejected, he will definitely take revenge. Seeing Yi Shiwen's silent appearance, Yan Qiling couldn't help but smile bitterly. It's not impossible to become the leader of a faction, but the problem is that he is a newcomer, a new disciple, although he can easily pull all the newcomers of the branch with this advantage. Come over, but this situation will not last long. Other factions will send people to grab people. If they do not agree, I am afraid that they will face the joint suppression of the major factions. Of course, these newcomers can be regarded as outstanding among the branch sects, but in the general sect, they appear to be very mediocre, and even among the more than 200 people, only the 20 or so innate realms are truly worthy of use. The remaining more than 180 are now only disciples of the outer sect, and their status is only slightly better than that of common servant disciples such as registered disciples. The strength is weak, the status is low, and there are many people. What is the use? In the past, there were no outstanding disciples who wanted to compete with the new disciples and the old disciples, but they soon fell apart under the pressure of those factions. Yi Shiwen sighed. From the bottom of his heart, Yi Shiwen didn't want to join any faction, because once he joined, he would be driven by others, then his mood would be completely broken. Since then, his cultivation has plummeted. Because after arriving at the main sect, he couldn't stand the huge contrast in status, and finally the invincible state of mind was broken, and it was difficult to make progress from then on. The two were silent all the way, and soon returned to the courtyard where the freshmen lived. The treatment of inner disciples is like this: one person per courtyard. If it is the top seed disciple among the core disciples, then you can have an independent palace on the mountain peak. A true disciple can sit on a mountain as a site. The strength is different, and the status and treatment are also very different. Yi Shiwen returned to his own courtyard. Although the inner disciples could only have a small courtyard independently, this courtyard was also extremely delicate, with pavilions, rockeries and flowing water, like a garden, and the entire courtyard was even more varied. A small branch of the spiritual vein makes the spiritual energy in the entire yard extremely abundant. From a distance, the immortal energy is dense, just like the place where the immortal family lives. There are also various formations that attract spiritual energy, defensive formations, and calming formations, etc., are engraved on the ground, and the core of starting these formations is in the hands of the owner of the yard. It's no wonder that everyone who is vying for the first place has to come to the main sect. This cultivation condition is 100 times stronger than that of the branch sect. Yi Shiwen sighed. After these branch sect geniuses have the various resources of the main sect, they should soon be able to rise rapidly, breaking through at a much faster speed than when they were in the branch sect. Even an outer disciple has only one room per person, but all kinds of formations are available. Although the sparrow is small, it has all the internal organs. This time, he went to the Hall of Merit in Tongtian Peak to get back his reward. This time, the rewards for getting started with Unicom and the Spirit Stones that were rewarded by the top management of Tongtian Peak for their outstanding performance were accumulated. There are a total of 5,000 middle-grade Spirit Stones, which made Yi Shiwen's mid-grade Spirit Stone worth 7,000 yuan. For genius disciples, there has always been a policy bias in the sect. In these inconspicuous places, more care will be given to these genius disciples. The strength of a sect is determined by whether the genius disciple of this sect is or not. Enough is enough. Is it strong enough? In the eyes of the real strong, the number is not a big deal at all. In addition to spirit stones, there are also various medicinal pills, those for healing wounds, those for replenishing infuriating qi, and many others, but what Yi Shiwen cares about most is a Shengxuan golden pill. The effect of this golden pill is similar to that of blood essence fruit, but it is far from being compared with blood essence fruit. The biggest effect of this golden pill is to help the person taking it to break through a realm in a short period of time, but it is only limited to the 5th level of innate. It's useful. In addition to Yi Shiwen, Yan Qiling also has them. Yi Shiwen believes that the disciples who performed well this time should all have them. With the inclination of these resources, the gap between geniuses and ordinary people will only get bigger and bigger. In addition to these, there are also some clothes, all made of ice cicada silk, which is warm in winter and cool in summer, repels insects and avoids dust, and has a very strong defense. just like Yi Shiwen's inner armor, but among the inner disciples of Yuanzong, it is only one piece. In addition to these, there are all kinds of equipment, all of which show the wealth of the One Yuan sect. However, joining the main sect does not mean the end, it is just a new beginning. When Yi Shiwen was about to retreat, suddenly there was a rush of footsteps outside the yard, and then a voice came in, "Senior Brother Yi, Brother Yi. Come in." Yi Shiwen released the defensive formations. Unless the owner of the yard released these formations, they could not enter casually, otherwise they would be attacked by the formations. After a while, a disciple in his 20s ran in and looked at Yi Shiwen anxiously. "What's wrong?" Yi Shiwen asked. This disciple was originally a disciple of the Qingfeng Mountain branch sect, and Yi Shiwen and him were also acquainted. This time, there were also 2 disciples assigned to Qingfeng Mountain, and this was one of them. "Those old disciples are simply deceiving people too much. They united to put pressure on us," said the disciple. "In the past few days, the factions of the old disciples have been coming to us to recruit people, but the brothers and sisters have decided to form a new party with Senior Brother Yan, so they began to deal with us intensified, and asked us to hand over our monthly salary every month. If you don't pay, you will be beaten and scolded at every turn." Yi Shiwen frowned. These old disciples are indeed deceiving people too much, but think about it, these new disciples are often the source of new members of those factions. The joint suppression of many factions. If the monthly salary is handed over, the cultivation speed of these new disciples will be greatly reduced, that is to say, they will be abolished in the future, and letting them fend for themselves can be regarded as a warning to future disciples. What a ruthless method. Chapter 105 Either perish or dissolve. For those old disciples, this is just one of the countless disciples of the realm, but for these new disciples, it is a matter of life and death. These new disciples, in their respective branches, are all top disciples who call the wind and call the rain. They are outstanding among the people, and it goes without saying that the talent is outstanding. With the conditions of the main sect, it is only a matter of catching up with the disciples of the main sect. It's just a matter of time. Who is willing to serve as a foil for others, if it is to join other people's crony faction, otherwise it is a member of the bottom, it is inevitable to be driven by others, who is willing to be willing. It was just like this, when Yan Qilling drew them to another faction, they naturally moved closer. Now they're blocking the door and asking us to hand over the monthly salary we just received. It's really deceiving, the disciple said through gritted teeth. Under the heavy pressure of the old disciples, either succumb to disbanding this new faction, or burn the jade and stone, no matter what, it is not a good result. In the hearts of these new disciples, Yan Qilling is a core, and Yi Shiwen is naturally also a core. Although Yi Shiwen has not publicly attracted people, his strength is there, and he is naturally one of the backers of the new disciples. Yi Shiwen said lightly, "I'll go and see." This matter is also closely related to him. After all, he is also a member of the new disciples, so how can he be left with such things as collecting monthly salary? Sooner or later, you will be involved in it. With Senior Brother Yi, there must be no problem. The disciple said overjoyedly. He didn't expect Yi Shiwen to help. After all, Yi Shiwen had previously expressed the idea of being alone and not participating in these parties. Yi Shiwen followed the disciple out of the courtyard. In this courtyard, all the new disciples of this year lived. The inner disciples occupied a courtyard, while the outer disciples had one room per person. There is no room for choice, only after reaching the core disciples can they choose where to live. After leaving the courtyard group, I found that this time the new disciples were all concentrated at the intersection, led by Yan Qilling. At this time, Yan Qilling was negotiating with the 10 old disciples who were blocking the intersection with an ugly face. These old disciples looked at these new disciples indifferently. The leader was a black-clothed youth who looked about 25 or 6 years old. He took a step forward and said, "I won't say more nonsense. I'll give you 2 options. First, hand over all your monthly salaries. Second, dissolve your crap." The old disciples' words immediately aroused the anger of many new disciples. This was to drive them all to a dead end. "You guys are trying to force us all to a dead end." A new disciple said angrily. "It's very simple to think that we will let you go. As long as you disband this bullshit party and join our Voldemort gang, everything will be easy to talk about." The black-clothed youth said with a sneer, I wish you didn't know the good and the bad. Listen. Said that the above thinks that you have a lot of talented disciples this year, and the rewards you have given are rare and generous in the past years. The faces of many disciples were full of anger. The disciples of these sects were elite geniuses in their respective sects, and they were the core. How could they have been bullied like this before? On the way, Yi Shiwen also heard from the disciple of the original Qingfeng mountain branch. The strength is considered to be medium among the factions created by many core disciples. I advise you to disband as soon as possible. I have seen a lot of newcomers, and there are no hard bones, but in the end, it is not difficult to move. This time, those newcomers from outside the sect are more acquainted than you, and they have already disbanded the organization and joined each other. Faction. The black-clothed youth said lightly. Don't deceive people too much. Yan Chilling said coldly. What about bullying you? The black-clothed disciple sneered and said, it seems that you people are really toasting and not eating and drinking. I heard that you have a lot of geniuses this year, and you are the best among them. I want to see how much you have. The black-clothed disciple sneered, and suddenly made his move. His palms turned into claws, and the cold light flickered, grabbed the sonic boom and grabbed it towards Yan Chilling's head. Shameless! Yan Chilling roared and exploded completely. The endless fiery red true chi that condensed into a fist wrapped around his arm, as if it was on fire, and instantly punched out and greeted him. Boom! The fists and claws collided fiercely, and the endless infuriating collision burst into a terrifying whirlwind, sweeping away. Each of the two sides took a step back, and they did not distinguish Xuanline, and their strengths were similar. The black-clothed disciple's face suddenly turned sideways. He didn't expect that Yan Chilling's strength was not worse than him at all. His expression changed suddenly. Although it was said that there were many new talents this time, he didn't take it to heart, because after all, he was the chief sect who joined the realm 9 years ago, nearly 10 years longer than Yan Chilling. Perhaps in the later period of decades or hundreds of years, 10 years cannot completely decide anything, but at their age, 10 years was enough to decide a lot of things, but he had 10 years longer than Yan Chilling, but he couldn't suppress him, which made a trace of murder and jealousy flash in his eyes. I mean, how can these people have such talent, and they have the strength to compete with themselves before they join the general sect? In order to have the current strength, it took him a full 10 years to go from an outer disciple to a disciple at the peak of the 3rd level innate. Although it is not the top, at least it is not a role that anyone can bully. But why is he? Thinking of this, the black-clothed disciple, with jealousy in his eyes, attacked Yan Chilling again, and Yan Chilling also greeted him with a sneer. The violent sound of explosions between the two sides continued to be heard, and the air could be blasted with a punch and a kick. The battle became more and more fierce. Those new disciples jumped away and did not dare to approach. Gang Fengchu's face was painful. The killing of the two was inseparable. Yan Chilling was essentially stronger, but the black-clothed disciple had more experience, so he was caught off guard by killing Yan Chilling, but as Yan Chilling gradually became familiar with it. With this black-clothed disciple's attacking method, it was only a matter of time before he completely defeated him. Chapter 106. Form your own faction. At this time, the 9 disciples behind the black-clothed disciple also saw these problems. Their eyesight was far from what these new disciples could match. Their strength could be improved in a short period of time, but their eyesight took time to accumulate. These disciples moved at this time and wanted to come forward to help the battle. Suddenly, a sky-shattering sword chi fell from the sky, slashed down in front of them in an instant, and cut a terrifying crack on the ground, extending more than 10 meters. Could it be that you old disciples will only bully the young with more? Yi Shiwen said coldly, holding a knife. Among the 9 disciples, there are many who are at the peak of the congenital 3rd level, almost no less than the black-clothed disciple, but at this time, all of them were breaking out in a cold sweat. With the knife just now, they were walking faster, and it was really a dead end. Even if it was them, they had to admit that if they were not careful, they would definitely be split in half with one knife, and that kid would never show mercy. I heard that there are many geniuses among the disciples in this session. In the previous session, the congenital disciples were already extremely outstanding, but in this session, the congenital disciples seemed so bleak because of the number of them. Too much. In the past, They could easily overthrow those newcomers, but there are obviously some very difficult people among the newcomers. For example, Yan Qilin, for example, this unremarkable boy in front of him. These new disciples are not only tricky, they can be called thorns. They thought that sending them here would completely suppress these newcomers, but they did not expect such a result. They have no doubt that if they dare to take a step, Yi Shiwen will definitely, if they dare to behead them on the spot, they will die in vain when this matter reaches the top. Could it be that these people rely on the strong to bully the weak, use the big to bully the small, and they were finally cleaned up? If they want to tell their elders, they will only become laughingstocks and waste. Those new disciples looked at Yi Shiwen with a hint of admiration in their eyes. Although Yan Qilin was able to fight against the elite among the old disciples as a new disciple without falling behind, they admired them more, but what they admired even more was. It was Yi Shiwen, who made the 9 disciples dare not move with one strike. It was a complete mess, and the mood that had been completely suppressed for the past few days broke out. How could these outstanding people be willing to be driven like this? Sure enough, as Yi Shiwen expected, it didn't take long for the black-clothed disciple to fall behind. Facing Yan Qilin's oppressive attack, he could only keep dodging. After a while, Yan Qilin caught one. The flaw instantly smashed the black-clothed disciple into the air, landing heavily on the ground, his life and death unknown. "Go away with him, I'll be welcome next time," Yan Qilin said, panting. Those old disciples didn't stop there, joking. Yi Shiwen's killing god was staring at him. How dare they stay for a long time? "Brother Yi, thanks to you for helping me this time," Yan Qilin said involuntarily as he watched the old disciples leave. "It's just a little effort." Yi Shiwen said, "Brother Yan, I thought about it, let's form a faction." Yi Shiwen's original idea that he didn't want to participate in the cooperation was greatly adapted at that moment, or it was fundamentally changed. There were some troubles, which he would not encounter if he didn't touch it. No matter how careful you are, those people who should come to the door will still come to the door. "Brother Yi, what do you mean?" Yan Qilin said overjoyedly. Although there was already a prototype of a faction, he was the only decent expert, but if Yi Shiwen could join in, it would be different. And the appeal has naturally been greatly improved. "I'm here, but I don't care about general faction matters," Yi Shiwen said. He didn't want to put all his energy on these vulgar things, even if he had already made a decision, but freedom is still what he yearns for. "No problem," Yan Qilin said excitedly. With Yi Shiwen's participation, his appeal was greatly increased, and the most important thing was that Yi Shiwen did not participate in the usual management. The power was in his hands, and there was nothing better than this ending. "Everyone, while everyone is here, I will announce again that Brother Yi and I plan to jointly form a faction, and all the freshmen of this class can join," Yan Qilin said loudly. Before it could only be regarded as a faction. The small group surrounding Yan Qilin was nothing more than a faction, but now it was really about to form a faction. Some of these disciples hesitated. They approached Yan Qilin before just to hold a group. Everyone knew that it was very difficult for new disciples to survive in the main sect. "It's just getting closer. You can go anytime you want, but after joining this faction, you can't betray casually. This is the case with any faction. No faction will allow members to come in and out, unless you can be stronger. Entire faction. All join." A new disciple raised his hand and said, "I'm fed up with being bullied by those old disciples. If I want to avoid being bullied, the only way is to form a group." "That's right, I'll join too." I also joined, with 2 eyes and 1 mouth. "Why can those old students create factions, but we can only join them, and we have to create our own factions?" "That's right, others can do it. Ours is one of the most outstanding in history. There's no reason why we can't do it," said a disciple. The rest of the disciples were completely aroused, and they nodded in agreement. It was not that they formed a faction when there were no newcomers in the past. Under the heavy pressure, they became one of the supergiant factions, spanning 10 main peaks, but those factions the leader of, is now also the top master among the true disciples, and the top genius in the One Yuan sect. "Okay, since everyone has no opinion, then our faction is officially established, but we still need a name. Do you have any good opinions?" Yan Qilin asked. Many disciples said a few names, but they couldn't convince the crowd, and couldn't make everyone satisfied. In the end, the 1,000-feather pavilion proposed by a disciple won the approval of most people, and finally chose Qianyu Pavilion as the final name. And many of the disciples are a little excited. From now on, they will be active as members of the 1,000-feather pavilion. No one knows how far they will go in the end, but now everyone is in high spirits. Chapter 107. Going to the depths of the sect. Yi Shiwen did not participate in the establishment of the 1,000-feather pavilion. Yan Qiling managed only a few things, and all kinds of work were arranged. Obviously, he did these things on weekdays, and he was very familiar with it. Yi Shiwen went straight back to his small yard. In this regard, he and Yan Qiling had a tacit understanding. Whether these factions and cronies can flourish depends not on outstanding management skills, but on whether the leader is strong. As long as the leader is strong enough, so even if there are only 2 or 3 people in this faction, it is a first-class powerful faction. If the leader is not strong enough, then everything else is empty. At this time, it is indeed impossible for these members to collectively improve their abilities. The only way is to quickly increase the strength of Yan Qiling and Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen has realized that the time after that will not be too calm. Since he has decided to participate in this turbulent current, he must have enough strength. Yi Shiwen has no choice or retreat. He doesn't believe that those who are used to being arrogant will miss such a good opportunity. Who would watch the rise of a new disciples' faction? Absolutely impossible. Therefore, whether it is for self-protection or the so-called future, it must be carried over now. Besides, Yi Shiwen also has some comparisons in his heart. Someone has done it before, and he has no reason not to do it. Arrive. Yi Shiwen's current strength had already broken through to the 2nd level of the innate a month ago, transforming 60% of the innate Qi, and his combat power was comparable to the peak of the 3rd level of the innate. It was time to break through. As long as he is making breakthroughs, Yi Shiwen is capable of overpowering experts at the 4th level of innate nature. After making up his mind, Yi Shiwen left the courtyard and immediately headed towards the Hall of Merit. Tongtian Peak's Merit Hall is much larger and more luxurious than the Merit Hall of the One Yuan sect. Various measures. So Yi Shiwen is not unfamiliar. Yi Shiwen first entered the Hall of Merit and turned in 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones and exchanged them for 1,000 points. Yi Shiwen has a total of 7,000 middle-grade spirit stones. A middle-grade spirit stone, but Yi Shiwen is not heartbroken, because he knows that this is necessary. There are many things that cannot be bought with spirit stones outside. Although they have to be redeemed with points, this is actually considered a part of hidden benefits. Yi Shiwen immediately exchanged the 1,000 points for a crane, which became Yi Shiwen's means of transportation. This crane is one of the many demon birds raised by the general sect of the One Yuan sect. It has become the first choice for many disciples to travel. These cranes also have extraordinary bloodlines in their bodies, and they don't need to rest when they fly thousands of miles a day. However, this price is naturally very high. Except for Yi Shiwen, who is rich and powerful, only 200 or 300 of the tens of thousands of disciples in the inner sect can afford it. Those are also the top figures among the disciples of the inner sect. Extraordinary, wealthy. Yi Shiwen chose a tall crane, standing upright, more than 2 meters high. It is an excellent means of transportation. After Yi Shiwen mastered the tricks and passwords for manipulating the crane, he leapt up and jumped up. After standing firm, the crane fluttered and spread its huge wings, took off, and flew towards the depths of Yuanzong like lightning and flint. Under Yi Shiwen's magic formula, the cranes have a good heart with Yi Shiwen, and they don't need to be controlled too deliberately by Yi Shiwen. The mountains in the depths of the One Yuan sect are stacked, and there are countless mountain ranges crisscrossing them. Many peaks rise from the ground. Even if they are far apart, you can still see the roars of countless monsters resounding in the heaven and earth above those mountains. As it flew closer and closer, the sound became louder and louder. The many mountain ranges in the depths of the One Yuan sect were at least hundreds of thousands of square kilometers in size. The ones were captured from other places, and the countless monsters and some demons among them were kept in captivity by the One Yuan sect. It is definitely a huge handwriting. Previously, the Qingfeng Mountain branch was only guarded on Qingfeng Mountain, but in the main sect, these monsters, demons and other strange beasts were kept in captivity for many disciples to practice. The crane was extremely fast, and even standing on it, he could feel the galloping speed. However, it took half an hour to reach the mountain range. This made Yi Shiwen very sure that he was right. Points are necessary, and you have to go by yourself, at least for several days. The crane stopped on a flat ground. Yi Shiwen jumped from the crane's back, and the crane immediately flapped its wings again and went straight to the sky, waiting for Yi Shiwen's next call. Yi Shiwen swept away, but saw the roars of monsters in the entire mountain range, one after another, or hoarse, or sharp, or low voices. People shuddered when they heard the hair stand upside down, and occasionally some disciples could be seen from the sky, flying by with a demon bird. The peaks of the mountain range are continuous and dangerous, magnificent and majestic, and they look extremely spectacular. Yi Shiwen knew that his time was running out and he had to break through as soon as possible to meet the challenges that followed. Yi Shiwen didn't hesitate. When he stepped on it, his true chi burst, and Yi Shiwen's body was like a cannonball, and he rushed directly into the woods. After a while, Yi Shiwen had passed countless trees and entered the depths of the jungle. Chapter 108 Training in the Mountains. Yi Shiwen rested his feet on a tree and breathed a sigh of relief. Yi Shiwen had already entered a considerable depth in the mountain range. The worst are also the acquired monsters of the 7th or 8th level, which are much stronger than Qingfeng Mountain. Hey! With the most shrill sound of breaking the air, a cold light flashed behind Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen almost instinctively dodged, and turned a somersault to another tree. Only at this time did he have the time to see what it was. But it turned out to be a giant mantis about 2 meters high, covered in green armor, dancing with 2 huge steel knives like front legs. Between the 2 steel knives, the air emanated like a cloth being cut by life. General sound. The mouth with 2 huge fangs is densely covered with fine teeth. Even the steel bars can be bitten off, and the 2 large wings on the back can blow the wind between the fans. Seeing Yi Shiwen dodging the attack, the giant praying mantis screamed, the wings behind him flapped, and the huge figure rushed towards Yi Shiwen like lightning and flint, and the pair of steel knives in front of him instantly waved like a huge pair of scissors, cut it to Yi Shiwen, and the waving even coincides with martial arts. It's mantis boxing. This praying mantis obviously possessed some intelligence, and when he raised his hands, he threw out a mantis fist. When he raised his hands and feet, it was completely natural. The mantis fist imitated by human beings turned into 4 different things in front of it. This mantis has definitely opened up the meridians in its body, and has achieved innate, and its combat power is no worse than that of ordinary warriors at the peak of the 2nd level of innate. The sharp blade chi flew out in an instant, killing Yi Shiwen. Beast! Yi Shiwen shouted, and the long sword shot. The dazzling sword light burst out instantly, and slashed towards the 2 swords. Boom! Daomang smashed the 2 sword chi violently, and then made persistent efforts and rushed over. There was a look of astonishment in the eyes of the praying mantis. Sure enough, it already has a lot of wisdom. These monsters that have broken through the acquired and innate realms, none of them are simple, and they cannot be viewed with the simple animal thinking. The mantis immediately knew that it seemed to have kicked the iron plate. This man, who looked much smaller than it, was definitely a tough stubble. He immediately stopped hesitating, and immediately fluttered his wings and flew into the sky, avoiding it. That terrifying sword glow. I want to go. Yi Shiwen sneered, stepped on, and immediately bent the branches under his feet, and his body was ejected like a cannonball. Yi Shiwen's figure was like an arrow, and he immediately chased after him. In midair, he continuously stomped down, bursting with true energy, adjusted his body, and danced out with a knife. The knife on splits the air and rushes to it instantly. PFF'd. The mantis, whose whole body was covered with a hard shell, was instantly cut in half. Boom! The huge body of the praying mantis instantly split in half and fell to the ground. Yi Shiwen turned over and fell to the ground easily. Yi Shiwen put the whole mantis into the space ring. These congenital monsters are all treasures. The 2 forelimbs of this mantis can be made into 2 high-quality long knives, and the hard shell on the body can also be processed into armor. Of course, Yi Shiwen does not have this ability, but others have them, and these can be sold for some spirit stones. Yes, this head is worth at least 10 middle-grade spirit stones. Although it's not much for Yi Shiwen now, it's right to add up. Yi Shiwen didn't stop and was about to leave when suddenly there was a sound of flapping wings in the sky, and a group of corpse vultures came after smelling the blood of the mantis. Each head of this group of corpse vultures has the strength of the acquired 9th level, reaching a height of nearly 2 meters and spreading its wings over 5 meters, covering the sky and the sun. There are also many corpse vulture leaders who are obviously one size larger than those corpse vultures, and a golden corpse vulture king. This is a small group of corpse vultures. Although not the largest, it has clearly become the climate. Seeing that the mantis' body was gone, these corpse vultures rushed down towards Yi Shiwen, fluttering their wings, and their sharp claws charged down towards Yi Shiwen fiercely. One after another, the air blades cut towards Yi Shiwen. If it were an ordinary person, I was afraid that it would be cut to pieces in an instant. These beasts! Yi Shiwen let out a low voice, and the long knife shot instantly, threw out 9 beams of sword light, instantly blasting those chi blades in midair, and a few corpse vultures that were relatively close were instantly shadowed by Yi Shiwen's knife. Split in half. Yi Shiwen is ruthless at all. The blade is deadly, the shadow of the blade is invincible. No corpse vulture can withstand the power of Yi Shiwen's sword. Even those corpse vulture leaders in the innate realm are not Yi Shiwen's opponents. Often only a few Yi Shiwen would be able to cut them off with a single face-to-face effort. These corpse vultures wrapped Yi Shiwen into it like a dark cloud, and bursts of terrifying screams pierced the hearts from the mouths of these corpse vultures. Yi Shiwen was in it, his figure was flickering, his movements were very unrestrained, and the sword light danced, completely wrapping him into a ball of light. Without any gaps, any corpse vultures could not get close, they would be chopped into pieces and fall down. The knife light was extremely terrifying, and the corpse-eating vultures died tragically before they had time to scream. After a while, Yi Shiwen slaughtered hundreds of corpse vultures far and wide, leaving only the golden corpse vulture. Seeing that all his clansmen were killed by Yi Shiwen, the golden corpse vulture was very angry. Charged down towards Yi Shiwen, the golden body pierced straight like a golden arrow. Yi Shiwen slashed out with a slash, the sword light flashed, and he slashed up. Chang! The sword light slashed the body of the golden corpse vulture, and there was a sound of gold and iron. However, this is the case. The golden corpse vulture was still dizzy after being slashed by Yi Shiwen, and slammed into a tree. Yi Shiwen's eyes flashed, and his body became violent, and he instantly moved towards the golden eagle. The corpse vulture pounced and fell with a knife. PFF'd. Although the golden corpse vulture had a hard body, this time Yi Shiwen used all his strength to chop off the golden corpse vulture's head with one knife. Yi Shiwen breathed a sigh of relief, but there were too many corpses of these corpse vultures, so Yi Shiwen only took away their demon cores. This level of training is not enough. To break through, you must hone. Yi Shiwen said, heading deeper into the mountain range. Chapter 109 Fighting the Snow Ape. In the blink of an eye, 3 days have passed. In the past 3 days, Yi Shiwen went deeper and deeper into the interior of the mountain range, and encountered countless monsters. Teams, infested in groups, and even among them there are monsters who can rival the masters of the innate triple peak. During these 3 days, Yi Shiwen did not relax in the slightest. The more he wanted to make breakthroughs, the more he had to hone his abilities under the most extreme conditions. Yi Shiwen has no intention of turning back, because he has not received the news from Yan Qilling. He told Yan Qilling that if something happens, he will immediately tell him with the communication talisman. With the speed of the crane, he can arrive as quickly as possible. Therefore, Yi Shiwen is not in a hurry, and can hone himself in the entire mountain range with peace of mind. During the 3 days, he did not dare to relax a little bit, because once there was a little bit of relaxation, he was afraid that he would die. This was the most dangerous environment he had ever experienced. It's on Qingfang Mountain. There are terrifying monsters and beasts everywhere. If you are not careful, you will be killed. Yi Shiwen encountered danger several times. Although Yi Shiwen drilled all the way for 3 days, due to the delay of many monsters and his caution, he did not advance much, and was still in the outermost area of the mountain range. However, just in the outer area, there are a large number of innate monsters wandering around. In the past few days, there are almost no acquired monsters. It is impossible for acquired monsters to survive in it. Yi Shiwen is sure that going further inside, there must be terrifying monsters above the 5th level of the innate, and there are even monsters at the true level to survive in it. Even true disciples have been here all year round. It is known that there are definitely true level monsters in it, not even just one or two, but a large number of them. However, these are all speculations by Yi Shiwen, and there is no evidence to prove that it really exists. However, in the past 3 days, Yi Shiwen has experienced life and death, and it is not without benefits. Yi Shiwen has now reached the peak of transforming 60% of the innate energy. Every act of protecting his body has a kind of reservoir that has accumulated a lot of river water. The feeling of pouring out all at once. This is a sign of a breakthrough. Yi Shiwen knows that now he is very familiar with breakthroughs. Yi Shiwen was moving on the branches, and suddenly a hailstorm fell from the whole sky. There was no warning, and it suddenly fell. Yi Shiwen immediately propped up his infuriating energy. He was very used to it. Here, there is almost no normal climate at all. Many powerful monsters can cause changes in the weather between the heavens and the earth when they roar, not to mention there are so many the monster. But the good thing is that the weather changes caused by such monsters are generally limited, so just leave. After all, the abilities of monsters are also very limited. The hail in the sky is getting bigger and bigger, and the trees near here are all bent, but it has not really destroyed much. After all, these are nourished by spiritual energy day and night, although it is not a treasure of heaven and earth. But those fist-sized hailstones couldn't crush them. However, Yi Shiwen failed to get out of the hailstorm this time, so he just bumped into the monster that caused the weather change. It was actually a snow ape, but it was a snow ape with a height of more than 3 meters, covered with snow-white long hair, and a fierce look on his face. The hail just now was because the snow ape was breaking through, and it had just broken through to the 4th level of the innate, and the breath was still unstable, so it caused the abnormal hail weather near here. Roar! The snow ape smacked his chest and let out a fierce scream, which stirred the surrounding weather and suddenly changed into a blizzard, which swept wildly. The snow ape slammed into the air with one punch, and the air rumbled loudly. This snow ape was actually practicing boxing. The movements were very simple, but the power was extremely powerful. The fierce gaze of the snow ape firmly locked on Yi Shiwen, who made Yi Shiwen crash into his territory, and even showed a hint of excitement and eagerness in his expression. Yi Shiwen was also stunned. Although he had seen intelligent monsters before, he had never seen such an anthropomorphic expression. Even he could tell that the snow ape was excited. Sure enough, the stronger the monster, the stronger the monster. The stronger the intelligence, not to mention the ape monsters, the monsters that are the closest to humans. Yi Shiwen still didn't understand. That snow ape, who had just broken through to the 4th level of the innate, was trying to find an opponent, but Yi Shiwen just bumped into it. Yi Shiwen hadn't thought about it yet, whether he wanted to leave or stay. That snow ape just punched over, and a terrifying wave of air slammed out towards Yi Shiwen instantly under the control of snow ape's Bingshe True Qi. Yi Shiwen didn't dare to care. This was a monster of the 4th level of congenital innate. Even if he had just broken through, he immediately pulled out his long sword. The sword light fanned out, and slashed down. Boom! Yi Shiwen unleashed that incomparably cold energy, and instantly set off a terrifying wave of air. Yi Shiwen's body was almost frozen, and the temperature was terrifyingly low. Yi Shiwen hurriedly used his infuriating energy to ease the stiffness on his body, but at this time, the excited expression on the snow monkey's face became more and more intense. Snow ape's movements were extremely fast, like a flash of white lightning, and he rushed in front of Yi Shiwen in an instant. In Yi Shiwen's eyes, a figure like a hill appeared in front of him instantly. The big hand pressed down instantly, bringing a burst of cold air. Because this snow ape likes a cold environment, even if it is not cold, it will be made cold by them. It was like the top of Mount Tai, and the snow ape slammed down in an instant, not giving Yi Shiwen a chance to breathe. This terrifying sense of oppression locked Yi Shiwen firmly in an instant. Yi Shiwen had to shout loudly, shoot it out with a palm, and the hidden dragon came out of the abyss. Roar! A dragon roar rose up, and a giant dragon rose up instantly, pressing towards the snow ape. Boom! Qianlong Chuyuan slammed into Shui Yuan's arm. Kara! Shui Yuan's arm was directly broken by Yi Shiwen. Chapter 110 Breakthrough in the Battle. Kara, Shui Yuan's arm was directly broken by Yi Shiwen. A look of surprise flashed across the snow ape's face. He didn't expect Yi Shiwen's blow to break his bones. Yi Shiwen gasped slightly. This move already consumed 10% of his innate qi, and this move was powerful, but even so, it couldn't kill the snow ape, it could only break him. Snow monkey is really powerful. However, the blood in Yi Shiwen's body also began to boil. Yi Shiwen's current strength is enough to sweep all the peaks of the innate third layer, and even compete with some weaker innate fourth layer masters. And that snow ape had just broken through to the fourth level of the innate, and had not yet consolidated his strength. At this time, the two met. Just a good opponent. The snow ape knew that Yi Shiwen's strength was outrageous, and he didn't fight Yi Shiwen recklessly. His arm shrank, and there was another, Kara, sound. The huge popsicle was pulled out by the snow monkey from the void, and when the sky smashed it towards Yi Shiwen, the stick figure was heavy, and it contained the essence of the stick technique. It was stronger than the previous snow ape's boxing technique. What beasts are really good at? Yi Shiwen did not hesitate, took out the long knife, and slashed it with one stroke. Boom! The dazzling sword light and the stick collided violently, rumbling, and there was a sound of thunderstorms and explosions around. The two sides took a step back one after another, but they couldn't help each other, and both felt the other's difficulty. Yi Shiwen stepped on his feet, stopped his retreat, and instantly rushed out like a cannonball again, and collided with Shui Yuan again. Boom! 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 A burst of huge crashing sounds came from the place where the two sides were fighting, and the two sides had tried their best to overwhelm each other. Shui Yuan finally realized that the opponent he chose this time does not seem to be so easy to deal with. It should be said that he chose the wrong opponent this time. This opponent is not as easy to deal with as he thought at the beginning. A good opponent, but unexpectedly, this opponent is good enough, but better than it thinks. However, the bloodline of the fierce beast hidden in the body completely burst out at this moment. The original unstable realm, in this fight again and again, shows signs of consolidating, which makes the snow monkey scream in the sky. Violent hair. But Yi Shiwen is not easy. This snow ape is constantly consolidating his realm, and his strength is soaring, but Yi Shiwen has a strength far beyond the peak of the innate third layer, and can even compete with some monsters in the innate fourth layer. But now with the constant collision with this snow ape, Yi Shiwen's realm barrier that was not very strong at first, at this moment, finally began to slowly loosen, and Yi Shiwen's strength is also constantly improving. The strength of both sides is constantly improving, the collision between the two sides continues, almost both sides are patient, and both hope to completely defeat the other side in the next attack. But Yi Shiwen is more tolerant, because he knows that the limit of this snow ape is approaching, and when his realm is consolidated, it will be his death, but he is different. He can still break through. There is a general progress by leaps and bounds. At that time, let alone a fourth-level innate monster, even a monster at the peak of the fourth-level innate can compete and defeat it. Shui Yuan has never felt so aggrieved. With the realm of the fourth-level innate, he can't overwhelm a human warrior who is only the second-level innate. Even the peerless body he is most proud of is also fighting against Yi Shiwen. In the middle, he couldn't gain the upper hand at all, and there was even a faint feeling of being suppressed by him. It doesn't know that the hegemony physique cultivated by Yi Shiwen's hegemony body art is fundamentally powerful and unparalleled. I used to tear up the gods and demons in this life. Although Yi Shiwen has only just reached the second level, he has already begun to show signs of it. Although its realm is far higher than Yi Shiwen, it can't completely press Yi Shiwen into the disadvantage in all aspects. It is slowly getting stronger, but it also feels that Yi Shiwen is also getting stronger, and the ore that is about to break through is getting stronger and stronger, more and more dense. Can't let him break through. This kind of thought echoed in Shui Yuan's mind. Although he couldn't speak, his intelligence had reached a certain level, and he could sense danger. Snow Ape no longer hesitated. Waving his long stick, wrapped in a bit of cold light, his body was full of demonic energy, and with all his strength, wherever the stick passed, even the air froze, as if it was a world of ice and snow. The stick has not yet arrived, but the terrifying aura has already been suppressed, and it slammed down like a broken bamboo, turned into an iceberg, and slammed down, as if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. With this huge pressure, the bones on Yi Shiwen's body were crackling, which was the result of friction between them. Yi Shiwen sneered, his body began to surge wildly. Yi Shiwen pulled out his long sword, danced the most dazzling sword light, and slashed away. The two auras met in midair, staggered, and collided fiercely, rubbing against each other. The true chi and the demon chi evaporated from each other, and the most terrifying fireworks erupted. Yi Shiwen's sword-on slowly collapsed under the stick mountain of Snow Ape, just when the iceberg was about to press on Yi Shiwen on the stick mountain. A terrifying aura suddenly erupted from Yi Shiwen's body. Yi Shiwen's aura was soaring all the way, from the original innate second layer to the peak of the innate second layer. Yi Shiwen originally transformed more than 60% of his true chi. In the momentum, Shengsheng transformed another 20%, reaching 80% of the innate true chi, which is enough to compare to the peak of the fourth level of innate. Yi Shiwen's aura, who had soared from 60% innate chi to 80% innate chi, became extremely terrifying. The blade light that was about to disappear, began to reappear in an instant, and even surpassed it before, almost completely overwhelmed that in an instant. The iceberg of the snow monkey turned into ice chips and flew in the air. Chapter 111. Jing Yan'an. The snow ape's eyes were full of horror. The human on the opposite side had actually made a breakthrough, and after the breakthrough, it was still so powerful that it was suddenly comparable to the peak of the innate fourth layer. This marks a new breakthrough in Yi Shiwen's combat effectiveness. However, this snow ape was unwilling to give up. This beast is also very smart. He also wanted to take advantage of Yi Shiwen's unstable realm to kill him by surprise. Maybe there is still a chance. A trace of cruelty and cunning flashed in this snow monkey's red eyes, but Yi Shiwen didn't let him wait for a long time. Yi Shiwen's knife became more and more terrifying, and even the snow ape had to concentrate and go all out. The snow monkey roared, and the snow and ice in the sky immediately began to fly, gathering in front of it, forming an ice wall, to resist Yi Shiwen's sword light. But he couldn't defend himself. Yi Shiwen's blade was so powerful that he cut the ice wall into two sections almost instantly, as easily as cutting a piece of paper. PFF'd. The dazzling sword light instantly smashed the body of the snow ape. Rao was as powerful as gold and iron. It was still cut in half, blood splashed, flesh and blood flying, and the red eyes were filled with incredible and incomprehensible, willingly. It has just broken through, it has not yet run amok, and it has not yet made its name among the monsters in the mountains. Yi Shiwen breathed a sigh of relief. This snow ape is indeed not an ordinary and difficult to deal with, and it is also a natural alien. If he hadn't broken through to the peak of the second innate, then the outcome would be unpredictable. However, Yi Shiwen also flashed a hint of joy. After breaking through to the peak of the second level of the innate, 80% of the acquired innate energy in his body has been transformed into the innate energy, and he can definitely compete with the master of the fourth level of the innate, and going further as the so-called after transforming all the innate true chi, the innate small perfection realm has been completed. Suddenly, a stream of light descended from the sky. Yi Shiwen stretched out his hand to pick it up. It was a messenger talisman. It was Yan Qiling's information. Yi Shiwen no longer hesitated. With a whistle, the cranes quickly flew down from the sky. For the past 3 days, the cranes have been hovering in the air, waiting for Yi Shiwen's call at any time. Riding the crane, half an hour later, Yi Shiwen had returned to the main sect. Yi Shiwen frowned, as she thought, those people didn't mean to give up. For the faction of Qianyu Pavilion, a new disciple, although not everyone is hostile, some factions are hostile. Because the factions are big and small, the scale is also different, and some are stronger, just like some factions created by true disciples. They only accept members from the core disciples, and only the strong among them, and other factions. The situation is also similar with minor differences. Only the mid-level and later factions will accept members among the new disciples. As for the factions at the bottom, they can only accept members from the outer sect disciples, or even receive members from among the named disciples. So fortunately, the new Qianyu Pavilion does not have to be enemies with all factions, but even so, there are 3 or 4 hostile factions in Tongtian Peak that Qianyu Pavilion has to face. They were originally competitors, but at this time they are concentric. Work together to suppress Qianyu Pavilion. The rise of any power comes like this, until it can be on an equal footing with them. but the situation is much better than what Yi Shiwen expected at the beginning. When Yi Shiwen rushed back to Tongtian Peak, there was no situation that Yan Qilin had said in the letter, that a large number of disciples came to block the door. Yi Shiwen is not worried about the safety of these new disciples. After all, they are in the sect, and those old disciples do not dare to be too presumptuous. Although there are almost always cases of bullying newcomers, no one dares to do it too much. I'm afraid it will alarm the top. The high-level people are not ignorant of the situation of the old disciples bullying the new disciples, but as long as they don't make too much trouble, they generally don't directly intervene. In their eyes, this is also part of the training, and everyone comes here. Ordinary mediocrity, they will not take it to heart. What really makes them care is whether there will be some geniuses. A genius is more than 1,000 mediocre talents. Therefore, when Yi Shiwen started in the sect, he usually wouldn't really kill him. They came to ask for trouble, and their strength was not good, so they were beaten in vain, because they did not account for either strength or reason, but once they made trouble human life, high-level people can't even ask. When Yi Shiwen returned to Tongtian Peak, he saw Yan Qilin talking to a handsome young man in a robe. "Brother Yan, what's going on?" Yi Shiwen asked. When he received the news from Yan Qilin before, he looked like he was in a hurry, but now it seems that nothing happened. Seeing Yi Shiwen coming back, Yan Qilin's face showed joy, but the handsome young man looked at Yi Shiwen with some playfulness. A smile appeared on Yan Qilin's face and said, "Brother Yi, this time, it's really thanks to senior brother Jing who helped me adjust it." With Yan Qilin's explanation, Yi Shiwen finally understood that there were indeed a large number of old disciples blocking the door before, so Yan Qilin hurriedly asked Yi Shiwen to come back, but was mediated by this handsome young man named Jing Yanan. The other party has temporarily withdrawn. "Thank you senior brother Jing for your help this time," Yi Shiwen said with hands over. "It's okay, I'm also entrusted by others," Jing Yanan said with a smile, but he didn't mean to take it to heart. Yi Shiwen was a little puzzled, who would help him at this time? Seeing that Yi Shiwen seemed to be very puzzled, Yan Qilin said, "Don't guess, I'll tell you directly, it's junior sister Hua, please let me do it." Chapter 112 The Battle After 1 month. "Thank you senior brother Jing for your help this time," Yi Shiwen said with hands over. "It's okay, I'm also entrusted by others," Jing Yanan said with a smile, but he didn't mean to take it to heart. Yi Shiwen was a little puzzled, who would help him at this time? Seeing that Yi Shiwen seemed to be very puzzled, Yan Qilin said, "Don't guess, I'll tell you directly, it's junior sister Hua, please let me do it." Hua Mengan. This name popped up in Yi Shiwen's mind. He didn't expect that Hua Mengan would actually help him. It seems that there is a pretty figure like Hua Mengan exiled again. Has the matter here spread out? Yi Shiwen didn't get entangled in Hua Mengan's question, but asked directly. "Of course, your Qianyu Pavilion has been in the limelight recently. Now, the 10 Peaks of Yuanzong, who doesn't know that we have a group of daring newcomers in Tongtian Peak?" Jing Yanan smiled faintly, with a bit of ridicule in his tone, meaning. Yan Qilin's face changed immediately. Everyone knew that the trouble was so early, but it was not a good thing. People who dared to do this in the past were not a generation of heroes, but they went straight to the truth in the end, or they were tired and crooked, and they ended up being miserable. Jing Yanan looked at Yi Shiwen meaningfully, as if he wanted to see that Yi Shiwen belonged to it. "What kind? It's nothing more than winning the king and losing the bandit, there is nothing to say," Yi Shiwen said lightly. "Haha, winning the king defeats the bandit, that's a good sentence." Jing Yan Nanjiaji sighed. This year's disciples are really different from the past, but it's not enough to just have the spirit, this time I will help you. They retreated, but whether you can survive it in the end depends on you. Senior brother Jing is willing to help each other once, we are already very grateful. Yan Qilin said. Yi Shiwen also has no doubts. Those old disciples, especially the factions whose members want to choose from among the new disciples, will spare no effort to suppress Qianyu Pavilion. They are not sending these people, but killing chickens and warning monkeys. If everyone wants to establish their own faction, these factions' development will be seriously affected. If not, those people are not fed up and have to fight against the new disciples. Jing Yanan didn't stay too long. and left soon after. Yan Qiling smiled bitterly. To form a faction was far from being as simple as he imagined. Originally, what he thought was too simple, not just to call the issue of strength, just the faction of those old disciples who are coveting them will not pass. If in a few years, in 10 years, his strength has improved by leaps and bounds, then if another faction is established at that time, naturally it will not be so difficult, can be said to be a matter of course. But he is extremely unwilling. Xianyu Pavilion has just been established, so will it be disbanded? Hey, Brother Yi, although senior brother Jing helped this time, the other party also put forward conditions. After a month, Mo Han, the deputy leader of the Foodie gang, will come back. As long as he can defeat him, then no one will be involved in this matter in the future. It is difficult for the Qianyu Pavilion, but if Mo Han cannot be defeated, then the Qianyu Pavilion must be disbanded. Yan Qiling said a little embarrassedly. What's the origin of this Mo Han? Yi Shiwen asked. Even if the Voldy gang was behind, it was established by the strong core disciples. Those who could become the deputy gang leader of the Voldy gang were naturally not ordinary people. This Mo Han, who is 2 realms earlier than us, joined the main sect almost 6 years ago. At that time, he was an extremely dazzling genius in their class, but he has cultivated to the peak of the 5th innate in just 6 years, and even once became the seed disciple of the inner disciples. He was very powerful. Because of his talent, the Volded gang made an exception to appoint him as the deputy gang leader. Sect disciple, the other deputy leaders are all core disciples. Yan Qiling explained. Talented disciples get preferential treatment wherever they are. It is reflected in various aspects, such as in Mo Han's affairs. I'm not reconciled, Yan Qiling said reluctantly. If he waited 2 more years, he would not be worse than Mo Han, but the difference was time. Leave this matter to me, I will fight Mo Han in a month. Yi Shiwen said. You. Yan Qiling looked at Yi Shiwen in disbelief. It wasn't because he doubted Yi Shiwen's strength. Judging by Yi Shiwen's age, it was quite remarkable to have such strength, but he also didn't believe that Yi Shiwen could really beat Mo Han. Don't worry, leave it to me, there's no problem. Yi Shiwen said. Originally, this matter must not be so easy to solve. This time, Hua Mengan asked Jing Yanan to come forward to adjust, which can be said to save a lot of trouble. With this Mo Han, Qianyu Pavilion will be able to get the approval of those factions, and people will not always come to ask for trouble. In this way, you can get enough time for development. If he were to fight Mo Han now, Yi Shiwen would naturally not be Mo Han's opponent, but if it were a month later, the situation would be completely different. Now Yi Shiwen is already at the peak of the 2nd level of the innate, and his combat power is comparable to the 4th level of the innate. At the peak, Yi Shiwen believed that he was definitely the fastest in this class of disciples, but he was still unable to fight against Mo Han. However, if he consumes the Shengxuan Jindan, Yi Shiwen will be able to leap to the next level in a short period of time and directly reach the peak of the 3rd level of the innate. Cold, no problem at all. However, it also takes time. The Shengxuan Golden Pill has extraordinary effects, and the medicinal power is naturally very strong. It takes a period of time to fully digest it. This month is just a buffer time. In a month, let me meet this Mo Han for a while. Yi Shiwen said lightly. Yan Qiling was a little puzzled that Yi Shiwen had such confidence. Even with the addition of Shengxuan Jindan, in his opinion, Yi Shiwen's strength had not jumped enough to compete with Mo Han. He didn't expect that Yi Shiwen's strength had just made another huge breakthrough, but Yi Shiwen didn't want to explain more, and went straight back to his yard to start retreating. Chapter 113 I pressed 5,000, Yi Shiwen wins. A month has passed in a blink of an eye. During this month, the newly born Qianyu Pavilion has become the target of the attention of many disciples up and down the Tongtian Peak, and even high-level officials have expressed their concern. And Yi Shiwen, a relatively popular name that was only spread among the new disciples, suddenly began to attract more attention. Many people knew that a faction appeared among the new disciples. The name Qianyu Pavilion appeared for the first time, in the minds of many people. But many people are not optimistic about the development of this new faction. Many people know that Yi Shiwen and Mo Han's battle. No one thinks that Yi Shiwen can be compared with Mo Han. Yi Shiwen is just a new disciple, but Mo Han is in among the inner sect disciples, They are all well known, and they even squeezed into the seed disciple rankings. Although it is only the last one, it also shows how powerful Mohan is. You must know that tens of thousands of inner sect disciples are also there are only 100 seed disciples. This is the most essential part of the inner disciples. As long as you can squeeze into the seed disciple rankings, you can get a lot of resources from the sect. This is the case in any sect, and geniuses can get more resources, get better care, and no one thinks there's anything wrong with that, because that's how everyone is. Tens of thousands of inner disciples competed for the ranking of 100 seed disciples. One could imagine that the competition was fierce. Even if Mohan had only made it to the top, it was enough to prove that Mohan's strength was extraordinary. Moreover, many people are very optimistic about Mohan, thinking that Mohan will definitely occupy the seed disciple rankings for a long time in the future. With Mohan's talent, it is only a matter of time. And who is Yi Shiwen? It's just the new disciple of this session. Even if they say that this session of the new disciple is amazing, Yi Shiwen is the best among them, but after all, the cultivation time is still short, and there will be no one in 10 years. Dare to say who wins and who loses, but at least now, no one is optimistic about Yi Shiwen. Once Yi Shiwen failed, the Qianyu Pavilion, which had not been established for a long time, would completely fall apart and must be disbanded. Time slowly came to the time for the two to fight. On this day, the Tongtian Peak Life and Death Arena was full of people, and many disciples came to watch. It won't break the sect rules, because the Life and Death Arena itself is a place for the disciples to solve their personal grievances. As long as both of them are willing to enter the Life and Death Arena, they can't help themselves. Generally speaking, unless it is a deep hatred, it will not be. On the Ring of Life and Death, the One Yuan sect did not shy away from doing this. It was really going to the point where you had to die. Do you have to hide it, smile on the surface, and then stab each other in the back? This would be detrimental to the development of the One Yuan sect. Every day there are some disciples here to settle the grievances of life and death, but today is the most lively one without any surprise. The new disciples meet the famous disciples among the old disciples. It has been a long time since this happened. What was the last time? At that time, many years ago, not many people really remember it. Come, the game is about to start. By Yi Shiwen, you lose 10, Mo Hansheng loses 0.5. The disciple who opened the gambling game shouted, and many disciples began to buy. From the loss it can be seen from the rate that most people bought Mo Hansheng, and only a small number of people who want to make a fortune will buy Yi Shiwensheng if they bet there is no miracle. Damn, isn't this bullying? Just look down on our little brother. A female voice came out of the crowd, but she saw a pretty woman in her 20s, standing pretty in the crowd. Beside her, stood a handsome young man who looked about 23 or 4 years old. It was Yi Feng and Yi Rushui, brothers and sisters. Today's battle not only aroused the attention of many people in Tongtian Peak, but also attracted the attention of many people in other 9 peaks. Many disciples rushed in early in the morning. Come over. Yi Feng and Yi Rushui naturally wanted to come over. There are also all the disciples of the Qingfeng Mountain branch who are coming here. No matter what, Yi Shiwen is the one who went out from their Qingfeng Mountain branch, and even in addition to the Qingfeng Mountain branch, other new disciples also came. Everyone's eyes were watching, because at this time, Yi Shiwen represented not only him, but even many newcomers, representing this newcomer's resistance to the older generation of disciples. Faced with Yi Rushui's separation, Yi Feng gave a wry smile. This is also normal. No one is optimistic about Yi Shiwen's engagement this time. Of course, except for Yi Rushui. Yi Rushui always has inexplicable confidence in Yi Shiwen. Beside them, Yan Qilin and eldest grandson Yuyan, and other disciples who had a good relationship with Yi Shiwen, were all listed. These old disciples are really arrogant, Yan Qilin said in a low voice. Speaking of Yan Qilin entering it, he said in front of the gaming table, I will press Yi Shiwen to win if I press 300 middle-grade spirit stones. Yan Qilin gritted his teeth. Yi Shiwen was fighting for the dignity of their new disciples. He couldn't help, he could only show his support like this. I press 400. Then another male voice came in. It was Yi Feng's voice. Press Yi Shiwen to win. I'm also pressing 100. Yi Rushui said through gritted teeth. I press 30. I'll press $10. Seeing that these top disciples were pressing on Yi Shiwen, many new disciples pressed on and said, "Loser is not lost." The disciple in charge of the gambling game looked at the crowd in a stunned manner, wondering what the madness of these new disciples had gone, and all of them were on Yi Shiwen, who had no chance of winning. Don't they know that they will lose everything like this? Although it looks very tempting to pay 10 to 1, as long as there is a slight chance of winning, would they dare to open the market to pay 10 to 1? These silly hats. The disciple sneered to himself, but his face was full of enthusiasm. He took over the spirit stones that were pressed down by everyone, and registered them one by one. Yi Shiwen's gambling luck was on Yi Shiwen's body, but most people were not stupid, and they still pressed on Mohan's body, so they could hardly make any money. Of course, the more such fools, the better. Who else wants to bet? The duel is about to begin. The disciple shouted. I pressed 5,000 to buy Yi Shiwen to win. A thin cyan figure appeared at the door. Chapter 114 Victory and Defeat are the truth, undecided. I pressed 5,000 to buy Yi Shiwen to win. A thin cyan figure appeared at the door. Yi Feng and the others turned their heads and saw a happy expression on their faces. Little brother, brother Yi. Senior brother Yi. Many new disciples shouted in vain. He's Yi Shiwen, he's too daring. Tisk tisk, challenge Mohan. No, although Mohan is not the top disciple, Yi Shiwen is just a new disciple. That is, let these newcomers take a good look at it. They want to be on an equal footing with us. It will take a few years. Some old disciples said sourly, in any place, there are geniuses and mediocre talents. Geniuses speak with strength, and mediocrities speak with qualifications. Everyone ignored these words, and Yi Shiwen didn't care at all. Qualification is indeed a part, but in this world, strength comes first. As long as there is enough strength, what is the qualification? Who cares? I bet 5,000 middle-grade spirit stones and bet that I can win. Yi Shiwen stepped forward and said to the disciple who opened the game. After that disciple was taken aback for a moment, he calmly accepted it, although this amount, to him, was a huge and frightening amount. Even an ordinary 5th-level inner disciple who went bankrupt would not be able to come up with it. This number. Only those seed disciples who are listed as top disciples can probably take it out, but even if they can take it out, there is no one who can take it all out like Yi Shiwen. But if you win, you can easily double it tenfold, which is really comparable to the wealth of many core disciples. After registering, Yi Shiwen turned around directly. He was not afraid that if he won in the end, the person who opened the auction would not lose money. Those who could open the auction would naturally not be ordinary people. It's a long-term deal, not so unwise. Although 50,000 mid-grade Lingxi is an astronomical number, it is only for inner disciples. Even among core disciples, there are quite a few that can be obtained. For true disciples, it is not much. Little brother, are you sure today? Yi Feng asked. Don't worry, Yi Shiwen smiled. I'm going to meet this Mohan for a while today. The area around the arena of life and death was already crowded with many disciples. It could be described as a sea of people. Not only many inner disciples, but also many core disciples came. Time is getting closer to the time of the original battle. Many of the disciples around were starting to get bored, especially when Fudi helped the crowd. Help master, kill that bastard who doesn't know how high the sky is. Let those newcomers know how good we are. Fudi helped the disciples to laugh, and the disciples of Xianyu Pavilion on the side were all glaring, extremely angry. On a stand opposite the arena, 2 figures stood indifferently on it. If Yi Shiwen was there, he would find that one of them was Jing Yanan, who had rescued him before. And beside him, stood a young man in black robe, handsome in appearance, looking at the ring below lightly. Brother Jing, that Yi Shiwen, don't you dare to come, it's almost starting, I haven't seen anyone yet. The handsome young man in black robe said. No, Jing Yanan shook his head and said, although I have only seen him once, he is a person whom junior sister Wall looks up to, and he is very energetic. He is someone who would rather die standing than live on his knees. It is absolutely impossible to dare to appear. Oh, among the inner disciples, there is someone who can get such an evaluation from Brother Jing. The handsome young man in black robe was a little surprised. I thought that Jing Yanan only came out to mediate out of Hua Menggan's face, but I didn't expect Jing Yanan's evaluation of Yi Shiwen to be so high. Jing Yanan smiled lightly. Don't say all, how talented this class of disciples is. Genius, hee, are there still few geniuses in my 1 Yuan sect? There are no geniuses in this class, but how many can grow up and not die prematurely? The black-robed youth shook his head and smiled. Those disciples who came in from the branch sect during the branch sect, almost all of them were called geniuses, and when the sect branched, they were all famous. The name of the talent also seems very ridiculous. Genius, talent alone is not enough, you have to have luck to grow up to be known to everyone. Everyone will only remember the glory when they were alive, who remembers how many bones lay on the road to success. Isn't Mo Han also known as the first genius of the class at that time? That's why I made him the deputy leader. The handsome young man in black robe leaned on a stone pillar next to him. This handsome young man in black robe was the leader of the Voldemort gang, Qin Muza. It's interesting, one is the top talent this year, and the other is the top talent of the previous 2 sessions. Jing Yanan said with a slight smile. What's so interesting? In a few years, it's hard to say who wins and who loses, but now, the winner is already decided. Qin Muza said lightly. It's hard to say, it's hard to say. Do you know that several disciples in this session have been given Shengshuan Jindan? Jing Yanan said with a twitch. Shengshuan Jindan. Qin Muza was stunned for a moment. Of course he knew about this Jindan. The effect was amazing. Even the main sect was something that only elite disciples could get their hands on, but the reason why he didn't think of it before was because that is only valid for warriors below the innate 5th layer, and he has passed the innate 5th layer for a long time. But are they willing? This is Shengshuan Jindan. Qin Mei's became a little serious. If they are really willing to use Shengshuan Jindan to complete that Yi Shiwen, then it's a bit interesting. There are really a few. Character. Qin Muza still has something to say. If there are really a few powerful characters, take this opportunity to understand the grievances with the newcomers this year. It is just that if they can't support the wall at all, then they will be dissolved. This is the fundamental reason why he accepted Jing Yanan's mediation. During the conversation, Fudi helped the deputy leader, and the other protagonist of this battle, Mo Han, finally appeared. Chapter 115 Congenital Small Perfection. That Mo Han was dressed in a warrior's strong suit, with a strong figure and a cold expression. Where's Yi Shiwen? Why hasn't he appeared yet? Mo Han opened his mouth and asked coldly. Shouldn't be afraid. The gang members who had the Fudi gang below laughed and said. Ha 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 ha. Fudi helped the crowd to laugh. This joke is not funny at all. A clear voice came out from the crowd. In the crowd, Yi Shiwen and others stood out. Yi Shiwen looked at Mo Han with a dull expression. You're here at last. Well, you didn't disappoint me. Mo Han said coldly. Mo Han didn't care about him. Yi Shiwen's body faintly exuded an aura that made him a little uneasy, quite strong. As Yi Shiwen entered the ring, the atmosphere of the scene was instantly ignited. Help Master. Clean up this arrogant, ignorant brat. Come on, help the Lord. The disciples of the Voldet gang shouted. Mo Han didn't say much. When Yi Shiwen had not yet established his foothold, he activated it in an instant. His figure was like an arrow from the string, and he swooped towards Yi Shiwen in an instant. Not to be outdone, Yi Shiwen stepped on his foot, flew out, and slammed out with a palm. The two figures in the arena passed by like lightning, and finally, like two meteors, they collided with each other in the field. Suddenly, two powerful innate chi burst out. Under this strong chi, even the floor was cracked with cracks. Bang, bang. In the low voice, the two figures both stepped back, and this time, it was a dead end. The eyes of the two were full of surprise, especially Mo Han, who was even more astonished. Unexpectedly, Yi Shiwen showed no signs of difficulty in this fight, and actually took his own blow quite easily. Yi Shiwen also did not expect that Mo Han's strength was obviously stronger than expected. Mo Han pulled out a jet black spear from the void. The tip of the spear was flickering with terrifying cold air. In an instant, it was like a poisonous snake coming out of a hole. Yi Shiwen also pulled out the long knife in an instant, danced with heavy sword shadows, and went up to meet him. Chong! The crisp sound of golden iron and sparks rang out from the collision between the two. Yi Shiwen's long knife and Mo Han's long spear collided heavily, and a wave of energy visible to the naked eye burst out, and immediately hit the body of the two figures heavily, above. Both of them took a few steps back. Your strength is good, but you are still too tender now. The tip of the spear in Mo Han's hand trembled slightly, like a poisonous snake that could bite at any time. The water in the main sect is very deep, it's not the time for a newcomer like you to mess around. Stop talking nonsense, no matter how deep the water is, I will make a foray. Yi Shiwen said lightly. If that's the case, then I can't blame me. Mo Han shouted loudly, his strength at the peak of the innate fifth realm was fully revealed, and the fierce aura completely enveloped the entire field in an instant. Yi Shiwen was also not to be outdone, an equally powerful, even slightly overpowering aura burst out instantly. Of course, Yi Shiwen couldn't have done nothing during this month. After taking the Shengxuan Jindan, Yi Shiwen's realm broke through to the peak of the third level of innate in a short period of time, and the acquired infuriating qi in his whole body was 100%. The complete conversion of 10 to innate qi greatly increased Yi Shiwen's combat effectiveness. After more than a month of consolidation, Tianxianbu has finally mastered the culmination. The last move of Cold Moon Slash, Full Moon Slash, was finally released. Yi Shiwen has achieved great success. Yi Shiwen's unique technique of pressing the bottom of the box, as the last trump card, the first style of Dragon Palm, also crossed from the original Xiaocheng to Dacheng. That is, among the martial arts that Yi Shiwen has mastered, there is only the second level of the hegemony body art, and he has only reached the realm of minor achievements, and all the others have mastered the realm of major achievements. With the second level realm of the hegemonic body art, of the Xiaocheng realm, Yi Shiwen's current power has directly broken through the power of 99 flying dragons that can be achieved at the peak of the fifth level of congenital, and directly reached the power of 100 flying dragons. This is only the master of the congenital small perfection realm can achieve. But Yi Exidi achieved it through the magic of painting body. The congenital small perfection realm is the realm above the peak of the fifth level of the congenital. When a warrior converts all the acquired innate qi in his body into the innate qi, he has reached the peak of the fifth level of the congenital. Further, the innate true qi in the body is waved like an arm, as if it is a whole. The power of the flesh is from the power of 99 flying dragons at the peak of the fifth innate in one fell swoop to the power of 100 flying dragons in one fell swoop. It seems that there is only one more power of flying dragon, but the strength of both sides will change greatly. It is much stronger than the congenital fifth layer peak, and Yi Shiwen's current combat power is unprecedentedly strong, and he is in the top state. In the field, the light of the sword light and the spear light rose vigorously. After a while, the two scenes flashed and moved at the same time, and finally, under the gaze of countless eyes, they swept out violently, and in an instant, they met in the field. Boom! The two lights and shadows collided fiercely, and a terrifying air wave burst out from the tip of the two weapons, just like a lotus flower in full bloom, instantly opened, and the air wave swept over. Hung! One of the figures stepped back a few steps, and on the arena of life and death, stepped on one by one deep footprints, cracking the stone surface. The air waves dissipated, and everyone saw that the figure that was continuously retreating was actually Mo Han. Everyone exclaimed, "How is this possible?" Under the violent collision, it was Mo Han, not Yi Shiwen, who fell into the disadvantage. On the stand in the distance, Qin Muza stared at Yi Shiwen with a horrified look on his face, and murmured, "How is this possible? How is this possible?" Jing Yanan on the side was also extremely shocked. Although he had just sworn that Yi Shiwen was not a thing in the pool, he never thought that Yi Shiwen would actually have the upper hand, and he actually did it. Under the arena, the disciples of Xianyu Pavilion and the Voldemort gang were also in disbelief, but the disciples of Xianyu Pavilion were in unbelievable shock with uncontrollable surprises, although they did not know how Yi Shiwen suddenly changed so strong, but there is no doubt that there is hope for their faction to stay alive. Chapter 116 Yi Shiwen, Victory. Mo Han was quite embarrassed and stood on the sidelines. The shock on his face could not be concealed. After the two sides let go of their hands and feet, it would actually end like this. The other party was even more tyrannical than him. I knew that junior brother Yi was really a monster, and he couldn't look at it with the eyes of a normal person. Zhang Yang said in amazement. Yi Feng also looked at his younger brother in disbelief. Before he knew it, his younger brother had made great progress and completely left himself behind. Originally, during this month, Yi Feng actually came to look for him. Yi Shiwen, after he knew about this matter, was also extremely anxious, and he was also extremely concerned about this matter. For the old disciple, it was just a move to suppress the new disciple, and there have been such people in the past. Existing, there is no shortage of ambitious people in every session. There are always people who want to raise the banner and create factions. This is very common, even if the disciples of this session are called many geniuses, but there is no difference. But for the rookie disciples, this is a battle of dignity. Yi Shiwen's battle is not only to maintain the existence of Xianyu Pavilion, but also to maintain the dignity of the rookie disciples. Once they are victorious, those old disciples will also look at them with admiration. Dare not underestimate. Yi Feng also had a Shengxuan golden pill in his hand, so he wanted to give the Shengxuan golden pill to Yi Shiwen, but he did not see Yi Shiwen. At that time, Yi Shiwen was in retreat and no one was seen. He knew that Yi Shiwen also had one in his hand. If the profound gold pill is added to this one, there is still hope that it will explode to the innate fifth layer in a short period of time. Although the profound gold pill is very precious, in his heart, how can there be Yi Shiwen is still important. But he didn't expect Yi Shiwen to be able to soar to such a level in a short period of time. Although Yi Shiwen was already very strong in his heart, it was only when they got to this point that they knew that they had to break through to such a level in such a short period of time. How difficult it is to fight, even with the help of Sheng Zan Jin Dan. Although Yi Shiwen didn't watch it, he knew the consternation of everyone, but it was normal for him to think about it. In order to break through to the peak of the Triple Realm, he mastered all martial arts to the peak. It cost him 2,000 middle-grade spirit stones. If he didn't have the profound gold pill, he might not be able to do it if he consumed twice as much spirit stone. His combat power was also exhausted by this endless consumption, which pushed him to a terrifying level. Looking coldly at Yi Shiwen who was approaching gradually, feeling the rising momentum, he clung to the palm of the spear, holding it a little tighter, his eyes fixed on Yi Shiwen's pace, just as the latter stepped into his room. When he was 10 steps away from the whole body, a low voice sounded from Mohan's mouth, and the strong innate chi burst out from his body like a flood. The soles of his feet stomped on the ground, and Mohan's body turned into spear shadows. Above the spear's tip, the innate junchi quickly condensed. With the help of the momentum, his body overlapped with the spear body. It was fused together, the gun and the man were one, the long spear cut through the air, and the sound of chi-chi, the air was stabbed in an instant. The powerhouse of the innate 5th level peak has so much power. In that instant, the slate under Mohan's feet completely turned into pieces and fluttered in the wind. The gunmen were united. Under the situation of being forced into a desperate situation, Mohan reached a state that very few people can achieve. Although it was only for a short time, there is no doubt that not only the combat power has soared, but even his future cultivation. There will also be great benefits. Gunmen unite. An accident happened again at the scene. The members of the Voldemort gang immediately shouted excitedly, while the disciples of Xianyu Pavilion were inexplicably horrified. The realm of the unity of gunmen and men, although only a realm that very few people can achieve, realm and strength are not the same. There are also folks who practice martial arts and only practice external skills throughout their lives. They can achieve it, but countless true-level warriors can't achieve it. It has nothing to do with strength, but has something to do with realm understanding. Under Yi Shiwen's pressure, Mohan was able to achieve that instantly reached the realm of the unity of gunmen and men. Afraid to shake one side. Okay. Chin Musa looked at Mohan who was below, and suddenly laughed and said, as expected of someone I value. The gunman is one, there are so many disciples in the One Yuan sect, how many people can reach this state, even for a moment, it will be a great help for him in the future. Thinking that there will be another master in his gang, Chin Musa immediately laughed out loud. This time the matter is not a loss, even if it may be a shame, but it can gain a future master, not a loss, not a loss. Don't be too happy for now, Jingyan Nan said on the side. In the face of Mohan's fierce offensive, Yi Shiwen did not directly resist. The realm of the one with guns and men was too terrifying. Even at that moment, it would not be wise to directly confront him. He stepped on it and burst out his true energy, faintly. The figure is looming, and when the figure shakes, it disappears strangely in place. The sudden loss of attacking the target caused Mohan's complexion to change abruptly. With the gunman united, he could only see a flash of blue flashing past, and a trace of surprise flashed in his heart. Thoughts flashed in his mind like lightning, but the spear in Mohan's hand suddenly turned and stabbed towards the blank area behind him. Ding! The crisp sound of the storm with sparks and terrifying energy sputtered out from the field. Mohan's spear stabbed back, stabbing a long knife, and the tyrannical force contained on the long knife, the strength turned out to be a slight bend in the long spear that was pressed straight. Yi Shiwen's figure was revealed, the corner of his mouth was raised. The gunman was indeed very powerful, but it also depends on who made it. Mohan made it a little short. Mohan was extremely horrified. In the case of the unity of the gun and the man, he still fell into a disadvantage and could not gain the upper hand at all. Yi Shiwen no longer hesitated immediately. The long knife in his hand made an extremely oppressive sound of breaking through the air, and he slashed down at Mohan. It is agile and cunning, but under the swept away of this terrifying force, Shungshung split Mohan back a step, and directly exited the state of the unity of heaven and man. Without the protection of the state of unity between man and nature, the outcome is decided. When Mohan retreated all the way, Yi Shiwen had already bullied him and threw the back of his sword fiercely. Bang! Mohan was severely hit and flew out of the field. Everyone was silent. Yi Shiwen, win. Chapter 117. Comparable to a seed disciple. The scene was silent, and many people had mixed feelings. This kind of result was unexpected, but it was also expected. Yi Shiwen's strong performance made them look sideways. The unity of Mohan's gunmen once made them feel that there was still hope for a comeback, but they were beaten back by Yi Shiwen. This force of new disciples called Xianyu Pavilion has gone through the most difficult time. At least no one can bully them on the bright side. This is the result of the compromise of various forces. The freshman disciples of Xianyu Pavilion also shouted happily. It was like a miracle that they won, and they actually won. Actually, he really defeated Mohan. You must know that Mohan was once on the seed disciple rankings. Even if he is no longer on the seed disciple rankings, he is definitely a quasi-seed disciple. Mohan entered the realm of the unity of the gun and the man, and he was actually blown up. When did the rookie disciple become so tyrannical? It is comparable to the seed disciple. How can a newcomer be so enchanting? It's only been so long before they can be compared to seed disciples. You must know that almost all of those seed disciples are enchanters, and they are all masters of the congenital small perfection realm. On the high platform in the distance, Chin Musa turned around and didn't look any further, but said lightly, "Okay, this time I missed the mark." However, Chin Musa had a smile on his face. He saw Yi Shiwen's amazing potential. He had just joined the sect and was able to defeat a master at the top of the 5th level of the congenital sect. He must be a true disciple in the future. It is definitely a very wise choice to settle grievances with a master who may rise rapidly in the future. Not to mention that Mohan accidentally entered the realm of gunman unity this time. There will be many benefits in the future, and then he can gain another master. It will also be of great help to the strength of the gang, and it will make a steady profit without losing money. Yi Shiwen turned around and got out of the arena, and was immediately surrounded by the disciples of Xianyu Pavilion. The disciples of Xianyu Pavilion suddenly gasped in amazement. "Brother Yi, this time, it's really thanks to you," Yan Chilling said in surprise, not expecting to actually win in the end. Yi Shiwen hadn't answered yet, but Yi Rushui said triumphantly, "Of course, don't look at who's little brother." Yi Shiwen was dumbfounded, and didn't know whether the second sister was complimenting him or herself. Among these people, Yi Rushui was the least worried and had extraordinary confidence in Yi Shiwen. "Let's go. Let's get back the spirit stone we won." At this time, one of the disciples of Xianyu Pavilion shouted. Everyone suddenly remembered that they not only won dignity and independence this time, but also won a lot of spiritual stones. At that time, it was a momentary anger, and they pressed on Yi Shiwen under the anger, but this time all were earned back with interest. If Yi Shiwen wins, he will lose 10 for 1, 10 times the middle grade spirit stone. For these disciples, it is not a small fortune, but a huge sum of money. They became rich overnight, which made these disciples all of a sudden, he made money. The more he invested, the more he earned, especially Yi Feng, Yi Rushui and the others. All of their net worth increased. After tenfold, they suddenly became inner disciples, easily the wealthiest of the bunch. Of course, among these people, Yi Shiwen made the most money. After Yi Shiwen threw the remaining 5,000 middle-grade spirit stones into it, it has now increased tenfold, reaching 50,000 middle-grade spirit stones. Said, this may be a huge fortune that can't be earned in a lifetime. Even for Yi Shiwen, this wealth is enough for him to cultivate all the way to the 5th level of the innate without worrying about the lack of spiritual stones. It's no wonder that even those true disciples have to gamble to make money. The speed of making money is simply terrifying. Yi Shiwen knows that the real money is full of money. It was not Yi Shiwen who made the money, but the person who made the bet this time. Those who beat Mohan to win all lost their money. Although Yi Shiwen and the others had to pay 10 times the amount of spirit stone, it was nothing compared to the amount of spirit stone they earned. If it is a core disciple, so many spirit stones are enough to make him richer than core disciples overnight, but behind these gambling games are true disciples. Although there are many spirit stones, it is not enough to get rich overnight. Many new disciples are in a happy mood. Since joining the main sect, they have never had such a happy time, especially those genius disciples who were already at the congenital level when they were in the branch, even though they were not the weaker outer sect disciples, but they are new disciples, and the disciples who are more tyrannical than them in the main sect are innumerable, and they are nothing at all. Now I finally feel proud. As long as Yi Shiwen is still in charge, who would dare to underestimate their newcomers this year? Now many people are speculating that Yi Shiwen has the strength comparable to the seed disciples, and there are only 100 of the tens of thousands of disciples in the inner sect. It is conceivable how tyrannical these seed disciples are. These 100 seed disciples are the real powerhouses among the inner disciples. Some of the strongest seed disciples have even defeated the core disciples. With such a strong person in charge, Xianyu Pavilion is not as stable as Mount Tai, but at least no one will bully it at will. After all, even if Xianyu Pavilion rises, it is just one of many factions. In fact, there are many factions, and the reason why they are suppressed by many factions is just because they want to kill chickens to show the monkeys. But now Yi Shiwen's tyranny has made those people realize that this is not a chicken, but a lion. Although he is still young, he already has fangs and claws. If he is not careful, he will scratch himself. Yi Shiwen also knows about the seed disciples. Maybe he can really compete with the last disciples among the seed disciples now, but the real powerhouses among the seed disciples are definitely tyrannical and outrageous. Many have defeated the core disciples. The record is a role that stands at the pinnacle of all inner disciples. Yi Shiwen. When everyone was excited, Mohan's voice came from behind. Although I lost to you now, I will definitely be ashamed in the seed disciple competition 3 months later. Chapter 118. Demon Worship. Although I lost to you now, I will definitely be ashamed in the seed disciple competition 3 months from now. Mohan looked at Yi Shiwen and said, there are only 100 seed disciples in the 1 Yuan sect, but it is not fixed. There is a competition for seed disciples almost every year. Almost every year, thousands of disciples participate in the competition to compete for the title of seed disciples, because he is not just good looking, and the welfare is almost better than many core disciples. From Mohan's point of view, Yi Shiwen has such strength. After 3 months, he will definitely participate in the competition for seed disciples. After this experience of the unity of gunmen and men, he is confident that after 3 months, his strength will be certain. There will be another leap to enter the realm of congenital small perfection, and at that time, he will be competing with Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen had also heard about the competition for seed disciples. It was the most important event in the hearts of inner disciples. Every year, newcomers stood out and shined brightly. Yi Shiwen did not expect that he would be able to participate in the seed disciple competition in such a short period of time. The previous plan was to be able to participate within 5 years at an extremely fast speed, but he did not expect that the speed would be faster than originally thought. It is no wonder that countless people have to worship in the main sect to practice cultivation. The progress of cultivation here is indeed far from comparable to that of the branch sect, and it is not even conceivable. After speaking, Mohan left without waiting for Yi Shiwen to answer, supported by the disciples of the foodie gang. Seed Disciple Competition. Many Qianyu Pavilion disciples were stunned for a moment. It was not that they didn't know, but they felt that this kind of disciple competition was still far away from them. For geniuses such as Yi Feng, at least 5 or 6 it takes years to have a chance to compete. As for them, this time must be at least 30 to 40 years, and the congenital realm is only 200 years of life. Little brother, you must participate in this seeded disciple competition. It's better to be in the top 100, so you can breathe a sigh of relief for our new disciples. Yi Rushui patted Yi Shiwen on the shoulder and said. Some of the old disciples who were close to the side were a little depressed and thought, don't you new disciples have enough anger? In the past 100 years, there has been no such arrogant newcomer. Yi Shiwen just smiled and didn't say anything. With his current state, he may not be able to compete for seed disciples, but he probably won't be able to compete for the front, and he can only hang at the end. It's already glorious enough, but for Yi Shiwen, it's better than nothing, it's just a stepping stone for others. Everyone found the disciple who set up the gambling game. The disciple just made a big profit, and he was very happy to return it to everyone 10 times according to everyone's gambling book. After taking back the original 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones, he also got the 50,000 middle-grade spirit stones he won. Yi Shiwen suddenly became rich overnight. In the envious eyes of many old disciples, Yi Shiwen took all the spirit stones into the space ring. After these spirit stones arrive, Yi Shiwen will not have to worry about the consumption of spirit stones for a long time. From time travel to the present, Yi Shiwen himself has to admit that his speed of making money is fast, but he spends spirit stones even faster, which is exaggerated. Core disciples, it is estimated that it is difficult to support such exaggerated consumption. Even if there is such space, it is estimated that it will not be used. Even Yi Shiwen had to rush hard on the way to earn spirit stones. If someone else was on the road to earn spirit stones, then the speed of cultivation would inevitably drop significantly, absorbing spirit stones to improve, but it was only among them, of a kind. Only Yi Shiwen can maintain a very fast cultivation speed when he is desperately earning spirit stones, and for Yi Shiwen, the more spirit stones he earns, the faster his cultivation speed will be. This is also the only thing he can do. Quickly improve your path. After Yi Shiwen defeated Mohan, the newly born Qianyu Pavilion began to declare publicly that they would not embarrass Qianyu Pavilion, and Qianyu Pavilion began to expand rapidly. In addition to Tongtian Peak, it was more all of a sudden, the tentacles were extended to the other main peaks. 70% of the newcomers from the major branches of this session joined the Qianyu Pavilion, and more than 30% of the disciples of the major forces in the country also joined the Qianyu Pavilion. The disciples of Qianyu Pavilion quickly broke through the 1,000-person mark in a short period of time, and directly hit more than 2,000 people. For a time, his reputation rose, attracting the attention of many disciples. For the new disciples, the appearance of Qianyu Pavilion is naturally more intimate than other factions, although they all know that in terms of development, Qianyu Pavilion is just a faction that has just emerged, and naturally it is not comparable to those old factions. The potential for development will also be restricted. If you can rely on other factions, there may be better development, but these new disciples are also cultivated as geniuses in the branch and other forces. They are all arrogant people, and they all want to work hard to make a career on their own. In addition, Qianyu Pavilion and Yi Shiwen, a master who has been regarded as a seed disciple by many people, naturally attracted many people to come. Among the new disciples in this session, among the top experts, in addition to Yan Qilin and Yi Shiwen, Yi Feng and the eldest grandson Yuyan also joined the Qianyu Pavilion with a high profile. However, Qianyu Pavilion so far is mainly dominated by new disciples, and other old disciples are still watching. When the many disciples of Qianyu Pavilion were still excited when the new faction had just begun to develop, a piece of news quickly spread throughout the entire One Yuan sect. 100 years later, the disciples of the demon cult once again appeared in the country of Deu on a large scale. For a time, the entire One Yuan sect was a sensation. When Yi Shiwen heard the news, he also felt like a storm was coming. The matter of worshipping demons also quickly began to spread in the Yuan sect, and many old disciples began to explain to the new disciples who had only joined the main sect in the past 100 years, the magic organization. In the real martial arts world, there is no real strict distinction between the famous sects and the evil ways. For example, the Blood Spirit sect, one of the 4 major sects of the Dayu Kingdom, is regarded by many people as a demon, but the Blood Spirit sect is still one of the 4 major sects. Chapter 119. Among the 4 major sects, the Blood Spirit sect is the only sect that can be regarded as a giant of the evil way. According to rumors, a long time ago, the human beings in the real martial arts world only had the view of the evil way, but there was no magic way. Legend has it that a long time ago, the demon realm once invaded the Junwu realm, and the battle was broken. Although the demon realm's attack was repelled, in that long moment, the demon realm also sowed the seeds in the Junwu realm, that is, the warriors of the demon Tao. When the demon realm invaded the Junwu realm, many human warriors were deceived by the demon race and fell into the demon Tao. In the real martial arts world, the disciples of the evil way are not always shouted and beaten, but the disciples of the devil are not very popular everywhere, and the worship of the devil is one of the most notorious sects of the devil. Demon worship, as the name suggests, is to worship the demons in the demon world, and advocates to rule the real martial world with demons. It is said that the main altar of the demon worship is dedicated to the king, the great devil, and many other legends in the devil world. The big devil. The purpose of the demon worship cult is to do everything possible to let the demons of the demon world come in, so the demon worship cult is a character that everyone shouts and beats no matter where it is. Hundreds of years ago, the demon worship cult started a rebellion in the country of Dayu. Unexpectedly, after only 100 years, the demon worship cult seems to have regained its vitality and came out to make trouble again. Many disciples don't have a good impression of worshipping demons. After all, no one wants to be ridden by demons. Immediately afterwards, a lot of news came out, as if overnight, all kinds of things about the demon cult were excavated, including many of the previous branch sects who were destroyed on the way to the main sect, and now there is news that they are all done by the demon sect. With the comeback of the demon worshipping cult, several major forces such as the One Yuan sect will join forces to kill the demon worshipping cult. For a time, the Hall of Merit was also filled with various tasks related to the worship of demons. The rewards are also very high. Killing an acquired demon worshipper will be rewarded with a mid-grade spirit stone. If you kill a congenital demon worshipper, you will have 10 to 100 mid-grade spirit stones. When beheading a master who is above the 5th level of the innate, it will reward 100 to 1000 middle-grade spirit stones. It can be said that the One Yuan sect has been bleeding profusely for the re-emergence of the demon cult this time. Yi Shiwen is also very excited about the rewards of so many spiritual stones. Compared with his own accumulation, killing these demon worshippers can not only improve their cultivation, but also exchange them for spiritual stones to speed up their cultivation. After making the decision, Yi Shiwen no longer hesitated, and immediately went to the Hall of Merit. The Hall of Merit in the main sect was many times larger than that in the branch. Due to the matter of worshipping the demons, the main sect of the One Yuan sect hung up a lot of tasks, and many disciples went to pick up the tasks. Yi Shiwen took a look. These tasks range from exploring where the demon worship cult is located in Dayu, to beheading the demon worshipping cult disciples who make trouble. The difficulty is also different. Different people naturally have to choose different levels of difficulty. For the comeback of the demon worship cult, the One Yuan sect attaches great importance to it. It is said that nearly half of the hundreds of true disciples have each led the task to go to various places in Dayu to kill these demons and heretics. Yi Shiwen took a look and received a quest to level down a stronghold of a demon worship cult disciple, so he had to set off immediately, because these quests would not be taken by only one person. For other quests on weekdays, a quest can only be taken once. But this time, because the matter of worshipping the devil is special, it can be accepted infinitely until the final task is completed. If you don't leave sooner, I'm afraid it won't be your turn. After leaving the Hall of Merit, I came to the middle of the mountain. You are Yi Shiwen. At this moment, a somewhat contemptuous voice came over. Yi Shiwen turned around and saw that not far away, 7 or 8 disciples were coming in groups. The leader was a handsome young man with a bit of arrogance and disdain on his face, and 7 young people were following him. During the assessment, the 7 people who killed Yi Shiwen, as the so-called enemies' road is narrow, even if there was nothing between the two sides, now it can be said that the feud is not small. I am, Yi Shiwen said lightly. Yi Shiwen glanced at the crowd, and Da Cheng's breath-holding power quickly took effect. Yi Shiwen saw through the breadth and strength of these people in an instant. The young man at the head was actually able to step into the congenital small perfection realm with 1 foot, compared to Mohan. Strength is higher. As for the other 7 disciples who had intercepted their own disciples before, their strength has also improved a lot, and they have basically reached the realm of the 3rd level of the innate, transforming 50% of the innate chi. These disciples have sharp eyes, like knives. They want to gouge out holes in Yi Shiwen's body. For masters, killing with eyes is not a fantasy. There are many masters whose eyes can condense into a substantial attack. That person will be killed instantly. Yi Shiwen, this is in front of the little marquis, so I don't even kneel down to greet him. Among the 7 people, the short-statured young man said grimly with resentment towards Yi Shiwen in his eyes. Joke, this is the 1 Yuan sect. You actually want to restrain me with the rules of the world. What is he? He actually wants me to kneel. Yi Shiwen said with a sneer. Yi Shiwen is estimated to be a child of some honorable family in Deu Kingdom, but most of them are not direct descendants. You must know that those honorables are firmly tied to the royal family and belong to the same interest group, so the direct descendants of those honorable children are they all want to enter the Royal Academy and become a student of the Royal Academy. Only those from the branch will enter other places. What kind of little princes? Most of them are also self-proclaimed. And what is the place of the 1 Yuan sect? It is a big force that can be on an equal footing with the royal family of the Deu Kingdom. It is not a big joke to actually want to use the secular king law to restrain the disciples of the 1 Yuan sect. I only heard before that among the new disciples this year, there is one person who is particularly arrogant, claiming to be comparable to the seed disciple, but I didn't expect you to be more arrogant than the rumors. That little marquis. Then don't mind your business. Mind your own business. What a little prince, putting the prestige in the world into the 1 Yuan sect, what a joke. Yi Shiwen said with a sneer. He didn't care about this little prince at all. Looking for death. The little marquis was instantly furious, his expression extremely gloomy, and with a jerk of his body, he had already rushed in front of Yi Shiwen. Chapter 120. Pseudo-Spirit Tool. This little marquis threw a punch directly in front of Yi Shiwen. This was an extremely domineering boxing technique. With one punch, the true qi in his body rushed out like a flood. Yi Shiwen stepped on his feet, and the Heavenly Immortal Step was activated instantly, and the power of the Dacheng level Heavenly Immortal Step was instantly manifested. Xing Yi fluttered, stepping on a mysterious pace, avoiding the punch of this little marquis. Immediately afterwards, Yi Shiwen slapped the palm of his hand, shocked like a thunder and lightning, and blasted out in an instant. Yi Shiwen's palm was wrapped in a thundercloud-shaped true qi, which exploded in an instant, and his muscles were instantly agitated, and the momentum was heavy. With a low drink, the thunder-running hand blasted out instantly, like a ball of thunder and lightning rushing straight down. How is that possible? The 7 youths all had incredible expressions on their faces. How could he be so powerful? When the 7 young men saw that palm, they were immediately dripping with cold sweat. If this was a puppet and their opponent was Yi Shiwen, they would be blown up in an instant. It was not that they had never heard of Yi Shiwen defeating Mohan, but before that, Yi Shiwen had just made a breakthrough in front of them. In their opinion, no matter how strong Yi Shiwen was, it was impossible for him to be as good as the rumors. Martial artists of the perfection realm, but this meeting completely overturned what they originally thought. And this little prince never expected that Yi Shiwen's strength was so powerful. Before, he always heard the 7 people say that Yi Shiwen was just a vain name, and at most, he was more powerful than these 7 people, but now he really sees it. It's only when you get there that you realize how wrong it is. Yi Shiwen's tyranny is far beyond his imagination. Among the inner disciples, he has only seen it in the seed disciples. But at this time, he couldn't care about complaining anymore. He hurriedly hugged the moon in his arms and closed his fist to his chest. In an instant, it was like a wall of steel bars. For others, it is definitely an impregnable wall. Want to keep it? Yi Shiwen sneered, and the thunder-running hand sped up a bit again, fierce and accurate, and instantly slapped the little Marquise's chest. Yi Shiwen's lightning-running hand instantly inserted into the arms of the little Marquis and hugged the moon, and instantly shot the little Marquis. Bang! With a thunderous voice, the little Marquis body instantly exploded, flew high, and fell to the ground ruthlessly. The little Marquis slammed into the ground mercilessly, spurting out a mouthful of blood, looking at Yi Shiwen with a fierce look in his eyes, and suddenly, a cold light flashed out from his body, almost a black light that instantly killed Yi Shiwen in front of him. Yi Shiwen was shocked, and immediately knew that this cold light was no trivial matter. He quickly raised his hand to block, and a knife light was cut out. Bang! The knife light and the cold light collided fiercely, and Yi Shiwen suddenly felt a huge force spit out from the cold light, almost making the long knife in his hand free. The cold light fell on the ground, and Yi Shiwen saw it clearly. It was actually a flying sword. It came from the air and exuded a faint spiritual pressure. The sword was full of cracks. The blow just now actually caused the formation above the flying sword to collapse completely, and the sword body was smashed with cracks. Yi Shiwen was looking at his long sword, and it was as before, with a cold light that penetrated people, and there was no crack at all. He was secretly surprised. He found this long sword in the cave of the iron-backed silver ape. At that time, many weapons were its rotten, and only this one that he has taken a fancy to, and he doesn't know its origin, is actually so amazing that he chopped up every single spiritual tool of his life and was about to scrap it. Among those weapons, they are generally divided into ordinary soldiers, divine weapons, and then spiritual weapons, and among the spiritual weapons, there are 4 types: low grade, middle grade, high grade, and unparalleled. The weapons used by ordinary warriors are the so-called ordinary soldiers, which are generally used by acquired level warriors. They are made of ordinary iron, which is easy to be scrapped and needs to be repaired frequently. And above the ordinary soldiers, the so-called magic soldiers. Divine soldiers are generally the peak acquired, and generally used by experts before the innate 5th layer. They use some rare materials, such as cold iron for 100 years, which are much stronger than ordinary mortal soldiers. It is extremely sharp, and cutting iron like mud is the common standard for magic weapons. Yi Shiwen always thought that this long knife was just a magic weapon, because ordinary soldiers were not cut by him at all, and were often scrapped. There is no aura that ordinary spirit tools have, and ordinary spirit tools will exude a faint spiritual pressure, and this long knife does not have these characteristics of spirit tools, so Yi Shiwen only regards it as a general magic weapon. But just after such a collision, it immediately showed the extraordinariness of this long sword. Even the spiritual tool was chopped up. It is hard to say how sharp it is, but the degree of sturdiness is the best that Yi Shiwen has seen. That flying sword should have been shattered by its own anti-shock force. However, Yi Shiwen immediately thought of another thought. This little prince has definitely not reached the 6th level of innate, and his true energy has been transformed into true essence. How could he be able to manipulate a spiritual tool? Spirit tools have spirits and cannot be manipulated by people below the 6th level of innate, because if they want to manipulate them, they must first have true essence, and only warriors above the 6th level of innate can transform the original innate energy into true essence, and only this real essence can really manipulate the spiritual tool. That is to say, this should not be a real spiritual weapon, but a so-called pseudo-spiritual weapon. The so-called pseudo-spiritual weapon is that a master above the true way can enlighten the magic weapon, and it has some characteristics of a spiritual tool. Of course, its power is far inferior to the real spiritual tool, but the advantage is that it is very easy to control. Even the warriors below the 6th level of the congenital can be controlled. But even so, pseudo-spiritual tools are definitely worth a lot of money. There are tens of thousands of inner disciples, and there may be only 100 or 200 pseudo-spiritual tools. Only the top disciples must be wealthy at the same time. The kind that is likely to have a pseudo-spiritual weapon. That little Marquis suddenly spurted out another mouthful of blood. Even if it was a fake spiritual weapon, it all had to rely on a trace of primordial spirit. This flying sword was completely chopped up by Yi Shiwen, and the trace of primordial spirit in it was already there. It was completely annihilated in the collision, Plus Yi Shiwen was slapped in the palm of the hand before, and now the injury is getting worse, and he just fainted completely. Little Marquis. The 7 people suddenly exclaimed. They didn't expect that Little Marquis's plot could not hurt Yi Shiwen. It was a fake spiritual weapon, and it was chopped up and destroyed. Yi Shiwen stepped forward, stared at the 7 people coldly, and said, "Tell me, who ordered you to deal with me last time?"